2024, it is 7:30 p.m. Notice of this meeting was published in the official newspaper, prominently posted in the Borough Hall, and filed with the clerk's office in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must always be maintained. Consider in reaching a decision. Okay. We'll do a roll call. Steve, you want to do the roll call?
Yeah, okay. Mr. Camporiella.
Present.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Mr. Dinsky.
Here.
Mr. Barrows.
Here.
Mr. Devine.
Here.
Mr. Santaniello.
Here.
Mrs. Cobb.
Here.
Mr. Michaelman.
Here. If you'd rise for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have a new member who has graciously volunteered his time and talents. And if you would swear in Mr. Carlo Camporielli, please.
You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Carlo Camporielli,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly
that
swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office
of the
of
office
Zoning Board of Adjustment member
of Zoning Board of Adjustment member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my
So help
ability.
me God.
So help me God.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next, we're going to move on to the appointment of our board engineer, David Atkinson for Neglia Engineering. May I have a nomination for that, please? Somebody?
Also move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, do we have any other nominations? Not seeing any. I'll close the nominations since we have none. Voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Well, if you would inform David and your firm that you
I'll let him
folks have
know.
been reappointed.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to do an interim appointment for planner because the council hasn't yet appointed a planner for the borough. We're not required to use the same planner, but we generally do, though we'll decide in the future if there is a conflict. But in the meantime, if I could have a nomination for appoint Carolyn Ryder, the interim planner.
Also move.
We have that. Do we have a second? Motion a second. Do we have any other nominations? And not seeing a show of hands on that. Close the nominations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Terrific on that.
Thank you, Chairman and board
Thank you.
members.
Yes, we look forward to a long and happy association as it has been in the past. Thank you.
I do as well, thank you.
Okay. Next is approval of zoning board minutes for November 20th, 2023 and January 17th, 2024. Does anyone have any adjustments, amendments, alterations to the minutes as submitted to you? Okay. If anyone was not here for those meetings, don't vote. Can I have a nomination, a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
Also move.
Do I have that? Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, minutes have been adopted. Next, it's not on the agenda, but we do zoning board procedures. And I see a lot of new faces here, so maybe some of you are not really familiar with this. This is not a legislative meeting. I know you're used to seeing mayor and council. We operate in the nature of a court. What happens is an applicant wants to do something to their property. They file an application with Steve, who goes through the zoning ordinances. If it meets the zoning ordinances, it's fine. They can move ahead, they'll get a building permit. If there's a problem, if there's something that's off, under certain circumstances specified by the municipal land use law, they can ask the Zoning Board of Adjustment to look at it and see if we can grant a variance. We operate in the nature of a court, as I say. They present their case. Unlike a court, you get a chance to participate, but it has to be within the confines of the rules. What happens is They put forward their case. They bring a witness. When they bring a witness, we question the witness only on their testimony and their subject matter. We don't bring in extraneous things at that point.
Is this mine?
We then move on to the next witness, and so on. It repeats until the end of the case. At that time, if members of the public, obviously, our professionals and the board members do get the question first and state, but at that point, members of the public can state their views, positive or negative. That's the point at which you would do that, not before. During the course of the case, you only come up to the podium if you have something that you want to ask. It's for questions of the witness. It is not for statements. It's not objections, not positive statements about it. I say that because we've had too many cases where people come up and they want to, interject their thoughts, and that puts me in an awkward position of having to rebuke a resident, and I don't like doing that. I will, but I don't like doing that. Okay, I hope that makes it plain on this. Now, when this is all over, the professionals advise us, the board votes. We do it based upon facts and evidence, not emotion. So the fact that there are a lot of people here, more than we're used to seeing, doesn't change anything. If you bring out a fact or present evidence that will help us, that's wonderful. If you just want to say, I like it or I don't like it, sure, we want to hear that, but it doesn't really advance the case. Now, moving on. Correspondence that's listed on your agenda is on file in Steve's office. If anybody wishes to look at the correspondence, it's there. I've already gone through the zoning procedures. I had to jump the gun because I saw
Chairman,
the...
you just want to mention the phones?
Oh, thank you, yes. Please either silence or turn off all phones. It could be disruptive. Bob, if you will swear in the professionals?
I can do that. You raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Let the record reflect that the Borough Board Planner has been sworn, the construction official and zoning officer has been sworn, and our acting board engineer. Could I have your name, please?
Yeah, it's John Dunley, John, and then D as in David, Unlea.
Okay, I think we've seen you before here.
I've been here before. It's been a little while though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we will do no more than 3 hours of testimony. What I anticipate, because we have 4 cases, we'll start with 45 minutes for the first case. If they take less time, that gives more time for the remaining 3. If the next case takes less time than 45 minutes or so, it gives more time, and so on. Now, to be frank, I have loaded the agenda because I think that we'll be able to get the United Way case to have the most time. I didn't want to cut them short. That's the reason they're last. So it's not to keep you folks waiting. It's to give everybody the opportunity to have the most time on this. With that, I call calendar 872-24, 916 Amaryllis Avenue, a continuation of a request for variance relief. And I believe you're up.
Okay.
If you would state your name.
So my name is Allison Taliaferro. Brian Mastro's wife. Brian had the opportunity to present at the last zoning board hearing. I'm going to continue that today. He couldn't be here, unfortunately. He's home in Tampa with our 2 sons, but I'm happy to be here. So basically, I'm one of the owners at 916 Amaryllis Ave.
Chairman, I think we need to swear her in.
Oh,
before
yeah.
we-
Please.
Sorry.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And I'm sorry, if you could just spell your last name, please, so we have
Sorry,
it.
it's a long one.
That's not that long.
T-A-G-L-I-A-F-E-R-R-O.
Thank you.
And then is it okay if my dad sits with me?
He could
Sorry.
sit there. If he's
Okay.
going to speak, he has to be sworn in.
Okay.
If he's just there
All
for
right.
moral support, fine.
Yeah, kind of just moral support.
Okay.
So my husband and I purchased this property back in September, mid-September. We specifically chose this area in Bergen County because of the excellent school districts, the proximity to the wonderful parks, in an area to build our forever home and raise our family with our two young boys. The home needs some renovations. We were planning to make some improvements. And we have, in order to make these improvements, we're requesting several variances. From the last zoning board hearing, we have made some modifications to our plans as well. So we'll be discussing them. I want to introduce a planner who we have referenced, a planner and engineer, Tibor Latinchich, who will be speaking about the existing conditions of the property and also the variances we are now seeking. And I'm happy to answer any questions as we go along as well.
Please, it's your case.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we should swear the witness in. Sir, would you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be true, shall be done.
Yes.
And for the record, you spell your
Tibor.
spell your last name. Okay, there we go.
Tibor.
Thank you, sir.
Last name Latinciscs. Special engineer license number 32444. Professional planner license number 3736. Principal engineer with the firm of Conklin Associates, 29 Church Street, Ramsey, New Jersey. I have appeared before this board.
He's previously been qualified here and elsewhere that I
All right, then we
represent.
accept you as an expert witness, please.
He can be qualified in both the field of engineering and planning.
Yes.
Thank you. I've been retained to assist with this matter. I've taken the liberty of preparing an exhibit list. It may be out of sequence since the last meeting, but starting with tonight's meeting, this is the exhibit list I will be referring to. And there's been modifications to the plan and supplemental information provided. Specifically, Exhibit A1 is a topographic survey by Schmidt Surveying, which I've reviewed. I've also...
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Latinez,
The
we
microphone.
previously-
We need you to speak into the microphone.
We previously marked on the January 17th meeting an Exhibit A1,
Okay,
a
so...
set of plans, unless you want to withdraw those plans and begin anew.
Well, those plans have been revised and superseded, so I think it's probably best to start with...
Okay, that's fine. We'll just delete A1 from the last meeting.
So tonight's A1 is a survey by Schmidt Surveying, which the plot plan is based upon. Exhibit A2 is the proposed site plan for 916 Amaryllis Drive. It is a unique property. It is 10,698 square foot property in the R2 zone, which requires 12,000 square feet. So it's an undersized lot, and the challenges that run with an undersized lot. But beyond that, it is very uniquely shaped. I'm referring to Exhibit A2, the plot plan, which is based on the survey Exhibit A1. It actually, somewhat trapezoidal, not squared off. It actually has 8 corners, this property. I'll trace this corner number going in a counterclockwise manner. Frontage on Amaryllis Avenue, which is 75 feet, where 100 feet is required in the zone. However, 75-foot wide lots are actually quite normal on Amaryllis Ave. It's actually 5 in a row, 5 75-foot wide lots when you come off Summit. I'm referring to a blow-up of the tax map, which I have affixed to Exhibit A2, which functions as a key map. This lot has 75 feet of frontage onto Amaryllis Avenue. It's actually right in a zigzag bend in the roadway, another peculiarity. But it actually has 8 corners. 1, 2, 3, a little jog here, 4, 5, 6, another jog, 7, 8 corners. And to make matters more challenging, it's not squared off. This actually is a converging sideline where the rear width is narrower than the front. So we have a converging sideline, which typically creates side yard setback challenges. So it is a unique and peculiar lot, and starting with the undersized lot and is irregular shape, compromised further by the converging sideline is among the reasons that we're requesting a C1 variance for the hardships that run with this property. Second hardship is of course the existing home. The applicant is starting with an existing home. It is dated shingle style, cedar shake, split level. Needs some TLC certainly, but the footprint is established, and the applicant is adding a second story, working with the existing footprint. There is no flexibility in relocating the footprint. That's a hardship that runs with the property. There's no flexibility in relocating the footprint of the existing home on this peculiarly shaped lot with 8 corners and converging sidelines. Since the last meeting, we have the benefit of topography. Property does have nice level topography, perhaps 2 level. It is actually the low point. Bless you. It is actually the low point of the immediate neighborhood. Neighbors on either side drain to the backyard of this property. There's a gentle low point here. Other characteristics of the property there are some substantial oak trees, a 36 and a 40-inch oak trees. There is no impact on those substantial trees as a result of this application. That is really a summary of the unique and peculiar property and the hardships that run with it.
Let me add something there. Also, on the right side of the property of the home, over the garage, that existing room has a wall height of 5 feet in the bathroom. My husband is 6'2", so it's just not. It's not very functional. So really, what we're proposing is to replace that room with a primary suite over that side, and then connect the right side of the home and the left side of the home with a loft so that our children can access our bedroom to that bedroom.
What we want to keep in mind is we don't design a house for a specific individual because the house stays for the next owner and whatever.
Absolutely,
So the fact that you want to increase the height is you want to increase the height, not because of your husband's height.
Oh, no, I understand. But it's not a functional space as well.
That's a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, just circling back on the property itself before we review the architectural plans. Again, it's a 10,698 square foot lot in a 12,000 square foot zone. That variance condition would continue. 75.06 feet frontage. That variance condition would continue. On the left-hand side or the west side, the existing side yard setback is 6.4 feet, but there's yet another unique element to this property. There is a 10-foot gore on the west side of the property. A gore is a piece of land where the ownership is not defined by survey. It does not appear on the tax map, but the more detailed survey indicates a 10-foot gore on the left or west side of the property, yet another unique element. I'm advised, I don't have any, can I give factual testimony on it? I'm advised that there used to be a roadway through this property that was vacated, and some more peculiarities manifested themselves. But circling back, there is a 6.4 foot side yard setback on the left or left or west side of the property, but there is an additional 10-foot gore of open space or land. On the right-hand side of the property, the existing side yard setback is 9.7 feet, where 15 feet is required. That variance condition would continue. It does have the benefit of a substantial 39.4 foot front yard setback. And yes, another peculiarity with this property, there's many, is that it's a double frontage lot where it backs up to the cul-de-sac on Lotus Avenue. Whether that's a front or a rear yard, one could debate, but there is a generous 65-foot setback to Lotus Avenue. What is proposed is a second-story addition to the existing split level, which is detailed on Exhibit A3. There have been substantial modifications to the plan since the last meeting, specifically on the east side. The second story has been reduced. You can see it lines up with the center of the two-car garage. And the interior has been modified to reduce the floor area ratio, so the floor area ratio is in compliance. The zoning official has issued Exhibit A5. Item number 5 on Exhibit A5 is the floor area ratio is compliant, and that variance has been eliminated from this application. Exhibit A5 is the zoning official's report.
The board already has that?
Yes, the board has that.
The roof height is, so the floor area ratio is compliant. The roof height is compliant. Roof height is 30.1 feet measured to the grade plane. The grade plane, by your definition, I believe, is the...
Oh, yeah, the microphone, please.
The proposed roof height is compliant 30.1 feet, which is well below the permitted 34 feet. That is measured to the grade plane. I believe by your definition, the grade plane is the average of the 6 feet from the four corners, 45 degrees out, plus the midpoint of each wall of the home. So our grade plane is elevation 100.5. The ridge is elevation 130.5 for a roof height of 30.1 feet, which is well below the permitted 34 feet. The floor area ratio is compliant. So that leaves the, and again, a major change to the plan was reducing the extent of the addition and the roof, the gable roof line over the existing two-car garage. The architecturals also show there would be stonework along the base of the home, shingle style, a very traditional architecture. Exhibit A3 shows front and the rear of the home. Exhibit A4 provides elevations of either side and a cross-section through the proposed home. As per prior testimony, these plans were prepared by the applicant, and kudos to them for pretty good AutoCAD skills for a homeowner. I understand there's some concern on the roof height on the east side. Roof height on the east side is 30.2 feet from the ridge to the base of the foundation. Again, well below the 34 feet.
there is, and I'm tracing and this is where this converging sideline comes in. And I'm tracing the 15-foot side yard setback. A2, right at the back corner, very corner, the rear corner of the second story is clipped by the 15-foot side yard setback to this converging sideline. So that is a 14.5-foot setback to the sliver of the corner of the home, because the second story addition is going straight up. So right at this back corner, really for maybe 2 feet of the corner, the side yard setback is 14.5 feet. So that is the one new variance on this peculiar piece of property. As a professional planner, I believe that these variants are justified due to the peculiar nature of the property, which I've stated several times: undersized, irregular shape, 8 corners, converging sidelines, double frontage, and a gore. Certainly a unique and a peculiar property. As far as planning, taking a step back in the big picture, we believe this home, if you've been by it, dated, cedar shake, split level, definitely in need of some upgrading in TLC, as testified by the applicant. This improvement to this home is 100% consistent with the goals and objectives of the Oradell Master Plan, which I've printed out from the website today as Exhibit A6. Goal number 4 of the master plan is to promote the continued maintenance and rehabilitation of the borough's housing stock and supporting facilities and utilities. Goal number 5 is to promote a variety of housing types and densities in appropriate locations. But circling back to to promote the maintenance and rehabilitation of the borough's housing stock, that is exactly what this application proposes, is to upgrade a dated split level to a home more typical of the of 2024. There is no detriment to the Oradell zoning code and a master plan when all the considerations with this unique lot are taken into consideration, and we believe that a C1 variance is justified. That a C1 criteria for the continuation of the existing variances and the one new variance where the back corner of the home is clipped by the 15-foot side yard.
Thank you. That's your testimony? Okay. Caroline, do you have any questions?
No, thank. My only question is that I believe what you distributed appears to be, is this from the 1978 master plan?
Well, actually what it says, it was originally adopted in 70, but this was printed off your website today.
Right, because there is a 2018 master plan. I just want to make sure there's no confusion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, there is a 2018 master plan,
but-
so I just want to make sure that we're all clear with respect to that the borough's master plan is not from 1978.
Okay.
It actually states that it was originally adopted in 1978.
Okay.
Yeah, but the answer is it's current. Okay. John, do you have any questions?
No questions from me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yes, we reviewed this application a number of times, and the applicant brought up in regards to the setbacks which I corrected. The board has those in red, and it just shows what the pre-existing total yard setbacks are and what they're proposing to do on the second floor. And as they said, the only added one is the one on the northeast side, which is just a split section of the corner that would incorporate an encroachment.
Okay, and you have to talk into the microphone, please.
Right, no, it doesn't show up there. Okay. Right at this one corner here, the 15-foot side yard just clips the corner of the
Right here.
proposed addition.
We understand, yeah.
Yeah.
But unless you can demonstrate that Steve's calculations are wrong, the board will use Steve's calculations.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Bob, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Does any member of the board have any questions?
I'm just curious with the gore. So it looks like the tax lot of the adjoining property is off to the side, and has your council looked into this? I mean, typically when a city relinquishes a road, you get title to the center line of the road.
Yes, it goes to each adjoiner.
Right.
Okay, it is our goal to investigate that dialogue with the neighbor, but I believe the question is who owns it, and that is not clear. Who might have owned it at one point in time, and where are their rights? But we are going to investigate it.
But they maintain that as their property?
Excuse me? No, the neighbor does not own it either.
No.
It's a gore between the two properties.
Who
Right,
mows
but
it?
is there a fence there or something?
No, it's maintained, this lawn area.
Actually, there's an encroachment of the walkway,
Yeah.
side walkway that needs to be addressed. And in the back, the patio that I think is proposed to be removed.
Yes, a portion of the brick patio we have removed as well, so that our lot coverage is in compliance now as well, from 49% to 40%. So we have investigated this score from acquiring the property. It is something that we have looked into. We made sure with the surveyors looked into it, comparing surveys of adjacent properties. We went back to deeds from the 1950s to make sure, there was no claim to this score. And we cannot find, we think it might be just from way back when, a misrecording that we believe it is our property. When we spoke with our neighbor, they were under the assumption it's our property. There were caps found that are consistent with the surveys, but there is this identified gore that it's not on any of the tax maps. So we had brought it up to Mr. Atkinson, actually. We called, I know you're not Mr. Atkinson, but your signature. So just because we wanted to see what's the deal with this score, because it does affect, obviously, the floor area ratio if we had this sliver of land. At this time, because we have a timeline in mind, we felt it best to just go with the plans as is. At this time, the FAR is in compliance, so that's something that we might look into at a later time, but right now it doesn't affect the FAR. So
You purchased the property, you obviously had to take title, and you had a title search.
I did.
Did the title insurance company
nothing.
say anything about it?
No,
Okay.
nothing. I did find, I went back to find deeds and past surveys. We found a lot of them, and it's not identified on
Okay.
them. So.
But that's not,
I'm more just curious.
right, that's not going to impact the
Yeah.
board's decision.
In regards to the paver patio, you might want to give a variance that it's on that gore.
Okay. It's on, okay.
A
Yeah.
portion of it is on
All
the
right,
floor.
so any resolution in the affirmative, if one is offered, should there also include a variance for the patio as requested?
Walkway.
I'm sorry, the walkway as suggested by Steve.
Just to clarify add to the testimony, when this property was purchased, there was a large slate patio in the backyard. The lot coverage was 48.9%. That slate patio has already been removed, has brought the property into compliance with 40% lot coverage. So another benefit of this application.
Thank you. Does any other board member, you have a question?
Yeah, just it being sensitive to what the concerns were the last time around. I know you mentioned that there were significant changes made here, and I see them, but I was wondering, I think it was A3, yeah. Could you highlight, I think the concern was the height of the east side of the building?
Sure. So the height of the east side of the building, what we did is we made major changes. We took away adjacent to the primary suite was a office and also a closet space. So we removed them further back so we can comply with the setback, further comply. We're still clipping that corner by 1/2 foot. And then also the ceiling heights in the main area, we lowered to also comply with the FAR. So you cannot put a second story above that height. Okay. So it's to 16 foot 7 inches now, under the 16.8 inches that would be.
Okay, thank you.
Let me emphasize, the roof height is a compliant 30.1 feet, and at the high point of the ridge on the east side to the property line is 18 feet. So it actually, at the high point of the roof, which is a compliant 30.1 feet, side yard setback from the ridge is 18 feet.
Yeah, that's
Thank you. All right. Do we have any other questions? Okay, then I'll open it to the public to question the witness only about his testimony. Does any member of the public have any questions? Not seeing a show of hands, I'll close this to the public. If you would wish to make any closing comments, or do you want us to move forward?
I can make a closing comment.
Please, go ahead.
This is something that I'm not an expert. It took many hours and consulting of people who are good with this, and a lot of YouTube videos, and to create plans that we were happy with. We've tried our best to accommodate the neighbors and their concerns. We've met with, had several meetings with adjacent neighbors to try to address them, to make sure we're all comfortable moving forward. And we feel we've made some significant changes to that end to help. And we hope that everyone can appreciate these changes that we've made, and we would be very happy if we could move forward with the construction and planning of this addition.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll have comments from the board on this, if you want to start.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, I'm sorry.
were you going to open it to the public for comments aside from questions?
You're right, I forgot, thank you. We'll open it up if any member of the public has any comments about this. Not seeing a show of hands, I will close it to the public. Thank you. Sir, you want?
Thank you for your testimony. Beautiful house. Obviously, it's important to see a change, taking something that was in these little bit of TLC, and you want to bring it back into the 2024. My only concern really is just about this apparent gore that's found there. If you have the paver patio that is encroaching on that property line, potentially at that point you're taking it back from your neighbor who may have an equal share to it by you putting the coverage on it. But other than that, the modifications that you made to the plan show that you're willing to work with the town, and I'd like to hear what the rest of the board has to say.
Yes.
I appreciate the modifications. I think the hardship with the lot is apparent. And it appears to be an attractive design that is in keeping with the local community.
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues. I appreciate the modifications. I think it's a much less visually impactful change to a house that obviously needs some updating. Overall modernizing it from the inside out is a positive change, and it'll, I think, bring the house more into line with others on that block.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that house well. It needs it. I really appreciate the sensitivity to the neighbors' concerns and the reduction of the height of that side of the building. I think it's a plausible project.
No, likewise, thank you for working with your neighbors and the town, and I think it's an improvement, and thank you for getting that done.
I don't have anything to add.
Nothing further?
Nothing to...
Nothing, okay. And from my standpoint, I'm very happy that you brought a professional in who covered not just the changes, but the reasons we can use to grant a variance if such is the case. I think the changes you made were very, very helpful. What you're proposing will be an enhancement to the neighborhood, bring the house into the 21st century, and I don't see any negatives whatsoever with that. Having said that, can I have a motion in the affirmative or negative on this case?
Yep, so I'll move that we approve calendar item 872-24. The applicant has demonstrated that they meet the requirements for variance relief.
Thank you. And of course, the change Steve suggested about the walkway. Steve, you want to state what?
Well, are you, do you want to keep the walkway? Are you willing to, or looking for a variance for the walkway in the gore?
Ideally, we would like to keep the walkway just because it was existing there. It's been there for probably decades.
Okay, then why don't we leave that in, and they can remove it if they want to.
Yeah.
Sure.
If it's an issue,
Another
of course,
variance,
we'd be
right?
Yes, I would
okay.
say,
That's
that's
a
the
variance
point,
fee,
it's a
right?
variance, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll accept that as a modification to?
Yep,
Okay.
subject to that modification.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. Okay,
Sorry, who
Steve,
seconded? Thank you.
Steve, you want to call the roll? I believe
Sure.
we have, unfortunately, you won't
Mr.
get a chance to vote on this one.
That's quite a...
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Odinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Barrows?
Yes.
Mr. Devine?
4.
Mr. Santaniello?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Michaelman?
Yes, okay. Congratulations, the variance has been granted. Just a couple of little housekeeping. What happens now is we have to reduce this approval to writing, which should occur at the next meeting, which is on March 18th. No promises, but that's what it should happen. After we approve it, the public or anybody else has 45 days within which to object. So we ask that you do not attempt anything until the end of that 45-day period after the approval of the resolution.
Okay.
But with that little caveat, congratulations and thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Actually, 45 minutes.
Okay, we made it.
Wow.
Perfect time.
That's what we call
Yeah. Okay, next is calendar, okay, folks, if we can. Next is calendar 875-24, 500 McKay Avenue, Wade Lieber.
Everyone's invited.
Bob, a notice is in order.
Notices are in order. Everyone testifying, I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony we're giving this proceeding shall be true, so help you God?
I do.
Could we have your names, please, and spell your last name?
Sure. Kimberly, Kimberly, Lieber, Lieder, hyphen, Wade, W-A-D-E.
And Lawrence Lieber, Laurence, Lieber, Lieber.
Thank you.
We also have our contractor with us.
Yes.
Okay,
You're
when
gonna
it's
be
time for him to, do you want to swear him in now?
He's testifying, we need to
Yeah.
swear him in. You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be true, so help you God? And could you give us your full name and spell your last name, please?
First name is Larry, last name Hage, H-A-G-E.
Hage. Thank you.
Okay. Your case, go ahead.
Sure. So we're seeking a variance for our deck expansion. There was previously a variance granted in 1994 for the existing deck. We're looking to expand the existing deck, which was in disrepair, by 2 feet towards the setback in the back, and an additional 10 feet towards the setback to the east. We refer to the appendix that we submitted with our application, but that's the nature of the request.
Okay, so it's only for a deck, nothing else?
Just for the deck.
Okay. Well, if you'd care to explain not just what you want to do, but why we should give you a variance, please?
Sure. So the current deck is old and it's splintering and it needs repair. We have 2 young children who are out there daily. And so it was always a question of when we would replace it. It got to the point where it's in dire need of replacement. As I said, there's an existing variance. We would just need to seek a permit to replace it as is. But with our growing family, we need more space for the growing number of toys in our backyard and also just enjoyment of our backyard space. There's no issue with the setback to the east. We're well within the setback requirements there. We're within the lot coverage requirements as well as the building requirements, so there's no issue to that regard. The nature of our lot is that it is irregularly shaped in the sense that our backyard is the most shallow portion of our yard. And so if we were to have any deck, it would require a variance, and that is why the variance that was granted in 1994 was granted. What we're seeking here in no way impedes use of our neighbor's property. There are currently 20-foot arborvitae blocking any view between our neighbor and us, and any expansion would have the same sort of privacy considerations. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
We'll start. John, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions related to this application. Thank you.
Caroline?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Steve?
Yes, I do. The original variance was for a deck 14 by 22. That's indicated on the survey in the darker hatched area. The added deck size would be 2.5 feet towards the rear and 10 feet towards the east. There is no setback except for somebody writing in 13.75 feet. I did a scale, and it's not an approximate, but it's around there. I have 14 feet. But on the smaller side, which is on the, let me take the little arrow here, on the west side here, it's a smaller measurement, and that seems to be about 13 feet. The original...
Is that the west side or the north side?
This is the east side here.
Yeah.
Okay. This is north. This is west.
Right.
So, the original variance didn't state a setback. It says an average yard depth of 22.94 feet, but it didn't state for the variance what the setback would be. So I don't know whether the board wants to go with the size of the deck, with an approximation for the rear yard setback that's encroaching.
I don't like approximations.
I think it would be helpful if we had the exact dimension.
Okay, so the applicant could make a statement that it won't go any further than 13 feet on the west side.
Not to exceed.
Excuse me?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Or 14 feet on the northwest side.
We're open to that, and we are willing to accept that as part of the variance.
That's 14 on the north side?
Well,
Northwest.
if you're looking at the survey, on the left-hand side, it's 14 feet,
Okay.
and on the right side, it would be 13 feet.
Okay. So that would be the northwest corner.
Northwest, yes.
That's on the right side, right?
That's on the left
That's on
side.
the left side.
That's on the left side? Okay.
Is
Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, Bob, do you have any questions?
No.
Does any member of the board have any questions? No? Okay. Not seeing of showings, I'll open it up to the public to ask questions of the witness about her testimony. Sir? If you would state your name and address, please.
David Banfield, 80 Prior Court.
Mr. Banfield, can we swear you in, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be true, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So my property is catty corner to the northwest. And so my questions are, is it accurate to say that our neighborhood has homes that are quite close together on roughly quarter-acre lots?
I would say that that is accurate, but I would also just add as an initial matter that in terms of knowing where your property is located, there's no difference from this variance to the variance that was previously granted.
Right. If the board approves your larger deck, it makes it suitable for larger gatherings, correct?
If you actually enjoy gatherings, then yes, but we don't.
Okay. If approved, would you take care to observe borough ordinances regarding noisy gatherings and music late at night, unless I'm invited?
We're in bed by 10 o'clock, so, and if we're out late, you'll be invited.
And I would just further respond that we take the ordinances very seriously. We're both lawyers. We understand the requirements.
Good. Will you be adding floodlights or spotlights?
We will not.
No.
Okay, fine. Because if so, I would just ask that you take reasonable efforts in consultation with your neighbors to minimize direct illumination into our homes. I see this in a lot of homes in Oradell. There are a lot of people with, put up floodlights and may not be aware how glaring it is to their neighbors. They should consider talking with them where,
But their answer was that they will not put up floodlights.
That's correct, yes. And with those concerns addressed, I have no objection to the requested variance. Party on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Do we have any other member of the public with any questions of the witness? And not seeing a show of hands, we'll close it to the public. If you want to move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Please come up, state your name and address.
Do you have a question?
Is this the one behind my house or no?
No, it's not.
85 Elliott?
No.
So I don't have any objections, no.
That was easy. Thank you.
Okay. By the way, we still would need to know your name. If you
I didn't
come
swear
back
him in
up.
either.
No, he doesn't.
But he did ask a question. We have to know his.
Okay.
Husam, Husam. The last name is Al-Nasr, Alnasr.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now, not seeing a show of hands, we'll close that to the public. If you want to bring up your, you said you were going to have your contractor testify, or you don't feel the need?
I think that we answered all the questions and
so
presented
there's no
everything,
need.
but we're happy to have him speak if there are any additional questions.
It's your case. You decide what you want.
I think she did a great job, so we'll stick with her testimony.
So we'll let it go with that. Then, well, people have already asked questions, but we'll give it another round to ask. John, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions. Thank you,
Steve?
Mr. Chairman.
None.
Caroline?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bob?
None.
Any member of the board have any questions of the witness? Any member of the public have any questions of the witness? Okay. Then, does any member of the public have any comments? Not seeing a show of hands, we'll close it to the public. All right, we'll move on. This time we'll start at this end, if we could have your thoughts.
I think as long as you work with the neighbors, I have no objection to what it is you're doing.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, given the, dimensions of the lot, it seems like a reasonable size deck for this property.
Thank you.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
Same, agreed.
Yep, same.
Yep, the hardship is clear given the corner lot.
Sir?
Yep, I echo the same as my board members.
Okay, so I will give you my ditto as well. I think this is an enhancement to the house and to the neighborhood. I don't see any detriment whatsoever, so I also would support this. Having said that, can I have a motion either in the affirmative or the negative on this case? Somebody? Anybody?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I will move to approve. Sorry, I don't know the number.
The number is 875-24.
875-24 for all the reasons so mentioned.
Short and sweet. Okay, do we have...
And with the conditions raised by Steve, in terms of the two corners?
Oh, the measurements?
Measurements, yes.
Okay, yeah, those measurements will be incorporated by Bob in the resolution. Okay,
Not to exceed 14 and 13.
not to exceed 14 feet. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Steve, if you want to call the roll?
Yep. Mr. Bartlett?
Yes.
Ms. Odinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Barrows?
Yes.
Mr. Devine?
Yes.
Mr. Santaniello?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Michaelman?
Yes. Okay. Once again, congratulations, and as you heard before, this
This is something new.
this will be reduced to writing and voted on at the next meeting, but we plan to anyway, March 18th. At that point, a 45, it'll then be published in the official newspaper that Friday after that. 45 days from that point, an objection can be raised and we can wind up in court. Absent that, this should be fine, so don't do anything before that 45-day period
Chairman, I
runs
just
out.
want to state, there was a comment that the deck has been removed. Okay.
Yes.
That you can't start any new construction until you get the permit and you go through that process.
Yes, understood.
You can submit the permits to us, but we can't release them until we get the resolution signed.
Understood.
Okay. Good. Well, with that, thank you very much. We appreciate your
Thank you all.
time.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now, with that, now we'll move on to calendar 873-24, 722 East Drive, Nugent.
You can just indicate that you're recusing yourself. Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I need to recuse myself on this matter.
Okay, please. If you would note that you have recused yourself.
I recuse myself from hearing this matter.
Thank you.
okay.
This isn't
Okay, notice is in order?
Yes, they are, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Will all three of you be testifying?
On the insurance, applicant and the architect, what's there.
You're an attorney?
I am.
Okay. So, Bob?
Let me swear your witnesses in. You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is proceeding shall be true, so help you God.
Yes.
I do.
Okay, and your name first?
William J. Martin, architect professional planner, address 25 Boulevard, Westwood, New Jersey, 07675.
Mr. Martins has previously been qualified before other boards I represent in planning and architecture. I recommend he be deemed so
Thank you. Then we
qualified.
do accept you as an expert witness.
Thank you.
Sir?
Jeffrey Moreira, M-O-R-E-I-R-A.
M-O-R-E-I-R-A.
I-R-A.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm
And by
Charles
the-
Raboli.
Okay, I was just saying, we have a microphone
Yeah.
there, so if you're going to speak, you don't have to use the
Morera,
hands.
you're a professional engineer?
No, I'm Catherine Nugent's husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's a homeowner.
Yes.
Homeowner, that's fine.
Good evening,
Sir.
for the record, Charles Raboli, R-A-B-O-L-L-I, of the law firm Udi Padavano, on behalf of Katie Nugent and her husband, who's standing next to me. This is a straightforward C1 variance. There's a small addition the applicant is looking to put on the house. There's currently an existing home on the lot with an 18.1-foot setback where 20 foot is required. The addition that we're going to put on is not going to exacerbate the setback. It's going to follow the exact same line. The reason for the addition is that Beth and his wife will soon be expanding in their family, so they need a little extra room in the house. With that, I will just begin asking my witnesses questions. So, sir, tell us just a little bit about you and why you're putting the addition on.
So my wife and I bought the house back last January of 2023. We moved in November, and we are expecting what was in April of 2024, but she was admitted to the hospital on January 29th due to complications. That is why she can't be here today, but on behalf of her, we are looking to update the house. We fell in love with the house as soon as we saw it, and we knew it would be our forever home, basically, for our family and children, and hopefully grandchildren down the line. But we wanted to. It was stuck in the '60s a little bit. The previous owners lived there their whole lives, and we appreciated what they did with the house, but we wanted to really bring the house to 2024. And part of that is adding a small addition and squaring off part of the home and adding a nursery there and using the extra space that we acquire for a powder room for our guests and making the master bedroom and master bath a little more functional for us as a family as we expect our first child. And the addition ends up being a few inches longer than the current wall length that's required. I think it's 25 and 3, where 25 feet is required. And yeah, as Charles said, it's going to be 18.1 feet, where 20 feet is required from the side yard setback. So we were just looking for that variance.
Okay, and then just because you mentioned the wall as well, and you indicate 25 feet, if I told you that the actual length of the wall is 35.5 feet and the length under the ordinance is supposed to be no more than 35 feet, would that sound right to you?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yes, very good. And you've not heard from any of your neighbors of any complaints with regard to putting this addition on, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you. No further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
No questions of this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Caroline?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Steve?
Do you have an idea of the distance from your neighbor, where his house sits?
I think the architect would be able to address that.
Bob?
No.
Any member of the board have any questions of the witness? Any member of the public have any questions of the witness? Not seeing a show of hands, I'll close it to the public.
Okay.
If you'd move on.
I'll call our next witness. Our next witness is Bill Martin. You've already been
Please,
qualified.
microphone, please.
You have been qualified as an expert by Mr. Regan.
Yes.
And you're going to testify with regard to both architecture. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And your license is currently in good standing in both those areas.
They are indeed. I am licensed as an architect currently in the state of New Jersey and other states, and I'm also licensed as a professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
You have the floor.
Just get myself organized here.
And just for your knowledge, I see you're using an easel, but that exhibit is also up on screens available to the board and to members of the public.
Right. I think what I'll start with is I'm just going to flip through, and then we can use the media that you have here. And I think, Mr. Depkin, you're in control of that?
I am.
You are? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. All right. I did provide a site plan. It also contains a zoning analysis table. This is a copy of the survey, but it's reduced in size because I didn't have a large enough printer for that. So we have the zoning analysis, we have the site plan, and on the next page, these were submitted with the application. This is soil movement, soil disturbance area. And we have the first floor plan with the addition in this area here. We have the basement plan. We have a partial basement. We have elevation views. This is front and rear. The house is a little bit unusual, and I will explain that in a moment. Next tab. Left and right side elevation views, including our addition, which is right here. And then finally, we have a three-dimensional projection. The addition is here. This shows the massing of the house. And those were the exhibits that I had laid down. What happened to... He's over there. All right. I'm going to sit here, if you don't mind.
I don't know why he's standing behind me.
I'm taking the attorney's seat. Yeah. Taking the attorney's seat. But
Yeah, he's witnessing the witness.
now, you can hear me through this, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I can put this down. All right. All right. Okay. First of all, again, my name is William J. Martin. I'm an architect and planner. I'm licensed in New Jersey. I've already been qualified. I prepared the exhibits that accompanied the application, and I believe you already have, and I just went through them. Those exhibits are the site plan and layout plans of the subject property. I also have some photos.
Well, those they have not been previously submitted, correct?
So I guess
So
we
we'll
should
have to
mark them?
Yeah.
Mr. Bowley,
Yes.
one exhibit for the photos or multiple?
No, we'll just do, are you taking the existing package and calling it A1, so this would be A2?
We can, however you want to do it.
Yeah, so let's.
Why don't we do Mr. Martin's submission as A1?
Yes. And then the photos will make them A2, A through however many he shows.
How many photos do you have?
I have, there's 2 copies. I was going to keep one copy to refer to, and
Okay,
I was
no.
going to pass the
No,
others around. In the submission, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's
8 photos, exhibit A2, one exhibit?
A2, A through H.
Okay. I also have these photos on a flash drive. If
Did you submit those to Steve so they can be? Oh.
I'll get it.
monitor.
I'd rather not.
That's fine.
Yeah, I have a little bit of difficulty getting through this, so maybe it's best we don't.
I thought it might be convenient to be able to do that, but I can do it this way. All right, now, you want to mark that?
You'll mark that as A2.
And then pass it.
I'll pass them around.
That's okay. And I'm going to describe the photos.
Okay, please.
Okay, for the record?
Do you want me to do
All right,
it?
the first is, for lack of a better term, a screen grab from an aerial of Google. And it shows the subject property with a red pin in it. It is looking towards the south with East Drive on the right. Kinderknecht Road is on the left. And you can see the Hiram Blauvelt Art Museum off to the upper left. And the Blauvelt Mansion is not on this exhibit, but it's a little further to the south. The second photo is a screen grab with north above, showing the context of my client's house and the houses in the immediate surrounds of the property. Then the third photo is a photo of the house across the street, which is number 725 East Drive. Next photo is the neighbor to the north at number 740 East Drive. And the next photo is neighbor to the south, number 700 East Drive. The next photo is the subject property, 722 East Drive, as viewed from the street. And this photo is important because it shows that the house is set back rather significantly on the property. The next photo is the front of the subject property as you approach from the driveway. And then the last photo is the rear view of the subject property, which you see in this 3D projection, but now you see the actual photo of the actual property. Okay, that is my review of those photos. So I'll refer to those as needed in my testimony. In preparation of my testimony this evening, I visited the site, measured the structure, reviewed the New Jersey municipal land use law as it applies, the Oradell zoning ordinance, and the Oradell master plan land use element update from December 4, 2018. We're here requesting relief from the side setback and also the length of the facade on the south side of 722 East Drive. The property is located in the north section of Oradell. It's just north of the Blauvelt Mansion and just west of the Hiram Blauvelt Art Museum in a portion of Oradell that is kind of, Emerson kind of wraps around on that side. The property is in the R1 residential zone. The property contains 42,823 square feet. It's a rather large property. The property contains an existing one-story house and a two-car garage. It also contains landscaping and in-ground swimming pool. There are pathways and such on the property. and there's a patio in the rear as well. The existing house was built in 1959 in the summer and fall of that year. The style of this house, because it's a somewhat unusual house, is referred to as mid-century modern in terms of its massing and styling. The mid-century modern homes are a very distinct architectural style. Many were built between 1940 and 1980, and this one was commissioned from an architect in New York by I think it was the previous owner?
Yes.
All right. So, like I said, it was built in 1959. Mid-century modern homes are noted for their integration into nature, and this house is integrated into this site very carefully. Other features are large windows, sliding glass doors, natural materials. They foster a connection with the surrounding environment. There was a lot of effort by the architect that created this house initially that it be properly integrated into the site. Generally, the emphasis of the design is simplicity and simple geometric shapes, flat roofs, low-sloped roofs, cantilevers, uncluttered exteriors that blend into the landscape. And we have examples of all of that mid-century modern styling on this house. And like I said, it was blended into the sloping site. This house respects its site in a lot of ways. The home itself is one story with a partial basement. On the East Drive side, if you look at the photos, it appears as a one-story home. It has a garage in front, which is connected to the house by a breezeway that goes from the garage towards the front door. And the house is laid out in several pods, as you see in the graphic I provided. The house contains 3 bedrooms on the first floor. There's a guest room in the basement. The exterior is covered with large areas of eastern-facing glass, which you can see in this. Right here, we have a lot of eastern-facing glass. We don't have a lot of glass on the sides that face neighbors, just relatively small windows. The neighboring, the large areas of glass, plus we have a board and batten siding on the remainder of the house, which is typical of mid-century modern, and it's painted a kind of a greenish gray, which also blends, and you almost don't even realize the house is there. If you look at that photo from the street, you can really hardly see it from the road at all. My client intends to renovate, and in doing so, add a very modest addition to the south side. The remainder of the house will be restored in keeping with the mid-century modern original. The addition is right here. So we are here before the board to request relief for a small addition to the south side that will square off an existing open corner adjacent to the master bedroom suite. And you heard my client talking about a nursery. It's labeled as a home office on the plan, but it's really going to be a nursery. There's also a powder room incorporated into that additional space that we're adding. It's a very modest amount of space, but it makes a big difference. There is no powder room in the house right now. They didn't consider these things in 1959, so we wanted to add a powder room. We're also putting a laundry room in with any family that would live in a house. They would need some type of a laundry room. So we're also adding that and shifting some of the interior spaces around. The master plan is the master bath is going to shift outward, and our powder room and our nursery is going to shift into this addition. You can see that in the plans. The neighborhood surrounding my client's property contains a variety of homes in various architectural styles. The neighborhood is beautiful. It's very lush. There's a lot of landscaping. This site contains a lot of trees. There's a lot of landscaping that has grown a bit that's going to get manicured as we move forward with the renovation and alteration and small addition to this house. The addition itself is 7 foot 1 inch wide by 23 foot 5 inches deep, and it fills in that corner. So it lines up with both sides of the pod that it's attached to, squaring off the plan. And this is, typically how a mid-century modern house would look. So we're not doing anything inconsistent. I would never do anything inconsistent to a house with such a design. It is a special house for sure. The addition will align, as I said, and square off. The addition covers approximately 170 square feet, and it's 1 story in height with the crawl space below, which is consistent to what it's attached to. It's a 1-story bedroom area, as I described, and there's a crawl space underneath. The idea is that the addition will disturb as little of the site as possible and blend back into the beautiful mid-century modern design. The client's purpose here for the addition is to expand, as I said, the nursery home office, master bath, add the powder room and the laundry room. We are requesting 2 variances. The modest addition encroaches slightly into the south side yard by about 1 foot 11 inches or 1.9 feet, depending on how you want to look at it. The existing house already encroaches in the side yard setback at that amount. The second variance is in relationship to the length of the facade, which is your diagram C from the zoning. We will be, we're limited to 35 feet, and our addition on that side with the way we're filling in the corner is going to create about 35 foot 6 inches. So we're 6 inches wider on that one side than the zoning allows. And that's the second variance. The addition in this location minimizes disturbance to the site, since the site at that part of the site is fairly level. So as we add the addition, we don't disturb much of the ground. I provided a soil soil calculation for the disturbed area. It's really the best location on this property for this small addition to square it off. The lawfully existing structure exists already slightly closer to the property line, as I mentioned before. In squaring it off, this creates practical difficulties for our modest addition being in a logical location. We want to line up and square off that pod. The New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law 40:55D-70C1C describes this condition as a hardship. I also reviewed the master plan, which is dated December 4, 2018, and that is the re-examined land use element of the master plan. The goals and objectives of the master plan support the rehabilitation of housing stock, and that is what this my client is going to do with the remainder of the house. We're going to add this small addition, rearrange some of the interior in that pod, and then we're going to open some walls. We're going to create more of a open kitchen, family room, great room situation. We're going to keep all of the glass. All of the beautiful things about a mid-century modern house are going to remain and be improved as part of this project. So we're going to update and restore the mid-century modern house, and the master plan supports this because it promotes the public health, safety, and general welfare. Also, allowing this addition in an appropriate location promotes a desirable visual environment, and that's consistent with the visual appearance of the mid-century modern home. The master plan supports the creation of a desirable visual environment such as we propose. In addition to this, the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law requires negative criteria be addressed, which I'm going to address next. There will be no substantial detriment caused by the proposed addition. There is no increase in traffic. There is no increase in noise. It's a single-family home. It's going to be a single-family home when we're done. There is no reduction in the aesthetics. We took great pains to add on in an appropriate location, minimize disturbance, and blend in with that mid-century modern home. There are no substantial drainage issues since the addition is very small and modest. There's no detriment to the public good. There's no conflict with the goals of the master plan. There is no conflict with the zone plan. There is no substantial impairment of the zoning ordinance. This proposal overall makes good planning sense, in my opinion, as a professional planner. So in conclusion, the location of the lawfully existing structure creates the practical difficulty for which the applicant requests relief. And I said there is no substantial detriment caused by this relief. So as a professional planner, I would suggest to the board that both the C1C criteria establishing the hardship and the negative criteria are addressed by the testimony I just gave. I respectfully request that the board give consideration to my client's request, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and or about any of the exhibits, or about any testimony I've given, and thank you for listening. Thank you.
Bill, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
It's the attorney over here.
I gotta find you, keep moving around.
Hey, you have the microphone in front of you.
Yes, that should be good. Why couldn't the addition go on the back or on the other side of the house, which would not require the encroachment?
Yeah, we do have a large lot, and that is a consideration. We looked into that, but the problem that we're trying to solve within the mid-century modern layout is the powder room, the nursery, the laundry room, and the only place that made sense within the house is in the pod that contains the master bedroom and master bath. So the request is for to fill in that corner so we can have just a little bit more space to make these adjustments that will be consistent with the styling of the house. And because of that and the alignment and the location of the lawfully existing structure, we see that as a C1C criteria hardship variance.
Okay. No further questions by me for this witness.
Thank you. Caroline, do you have any
No,
questions?
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Chairman, the only comment I would add is just that with respect to the addition, when the addition is constructed, any new roof leaders are not directed in such a way that they would impact your neighbors from a stormwater perspective.
Absolutely. The slope, it slopes towards the rear. That area is substantially level, but it does slope a little bit towards the rear. So any drainage that comes off the roof of this modest area is going to flow down and away from the neighbor alongside the side of the house.
Thank you.
Steve?
Are you planning any major regrading of the property in the front on East Drive or along those sides?
No.
And do you have an idea of how much soil you're planning on moving?
The submission included a calculation of soil movement, and in this box down here, you see the disturbance area around the addition. You see a section of the addition showing the crawl space, and that also identifies the disturbance area. We have 16.37 cubic yards of soil disturbed and 5.65 cubic yards of soil removed from the site. There is no planned regrading. We are going to return the grade to its same height and such, same contour. It's just that the addition is going to disturb. The addition foundation disturbs a little bit of the soil, and we're going to remove it.
So
it's well under 30.
You don't need a soil moving approval here.
Thank you. Bob, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Does any member of the board have any questions?
Just to ask a question to follow up on the water runoff, because that property does slope fairly down into a Hemlock Drive. You are going to have leaders or gutters in there to some sort of a dry well for that purpose? Only because the property gets very steep towards the end back of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do have a drainage system already from the driveway that already takes water from the driveway back down towards the property, so I believe we will be incorporating some.
Yeah, the amount of runoff from this very small addition is almost inconsequential, but we're going to direct it into that existing system.
Thank you. No questions? If I understand, you're really taking what might be an awkward notch right now and squaring that off so that when you finish, this will actually look like it was always there.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I'll open this to the public for any questions of the witness. Not seeing a show of hands, I'll close it to the public.
I'm sorry. Is this a comment time as well?
No,
or
not yet, not yet. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say on this case?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate the board listening to us.
Okay, then, now it's a comment time. If anybody has any comment, please raise your hand. Okay, ma'am, if you would come up, state your name and address, and be sworn.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be true, so help you God?
Yeah, I do.
Give us your full name, spell your last name, and your address.
Sure. Mary Louise Mullen, Mullen, 700 East Drive, Oradell.
Thank you.
Hi. So I'm the neighbor directly to the south of this property. And I understand the intent of the addition and don't question the purpose of it. However, I do find that it is unfortunate that given the amount of property on the north, south, and east side, where it's substantial, that on the south side where I'm located, it's exceeding or encroaching upon the setback. That being said, my only concern then would be once the addition, if it were to move forward, there's an existing fence there. I would just want to know if the fence was remaining and then how they were going to shrub that area in for privacy. The way the house is situated on the property, it's set back quite far from the street. So the house is actually, the length of the house runs my backyard. And I do have a patio there. So I would just ask that any type of shrubbery maybe be added to to kind of screen off this addition so that it affords me the privacy in my backyard. And then my other concern is the trees that are existing there are pine trees that are behind this area where they're looking to put the addition. I would just want to know if they plan on removing those trees and again what they would be replacing them with.
Okay. That's sort of comment and question. So would you care to respond to what was just stated?
Sure. There are evergreens already in that area that provide a lot of shielding. We could add some additional arborvitae to create a little bit of additional shielding. We do not intend to take out any trees at all. That a part of the site right now was a small gardening area, which will now be eclipsed by the addition, and then the remainder of that gardening area is just going to remain as turf, as grass. So I don't see any reason why we could plant a couple of
Sure, yeah.
arborvitaes.
That part of the house is, I know it overlooks like your patio, but we never really look out that way. The windows aren't very large over there. We're not looking out towards that part of the house. We're usually looking out towards the back of the house. And the fence we plan on keeping, keeping up. The trees we plan on keeping up. So we don't really plan on looking out. I think the master bath will be along that wall. Obviously, we don't want you looking in. We don't want to be looking out from the master bath.
Right.
So
yeah, in the office as well, or the nursery, whatever.
There will probably be a window there, but it'll be, obviously, our baby will be there, so we don't want a lot of looking in as well as looking out.
Right.
Are there any gaps in the trees? I'm taking it from this that there are some gaps where.
Yeah, they're large trees,
Right.
so there's
But
it
there's
varies.
spaces.
Yes.
So
There's a photo.
We have a photo I could show you.
that's okay. No, I'm getting to the point. So if this were approved, I'm not presupposing it was, but if this were approved, would you be willing to accept a condition? Of course, you don't have to accept it if we say it that it's so, but I want to know how you feel about it. Would you be willing to accept a condition that you will fill in any gaps that exist currently now for privacy purposes with arborvitaes?
If there is space to do so, because I mean, we'd have to, obviously, if there's, the way that area is set up, I don't know what will actually grow there, because there's very large trees with large roots.
Is it?
So
it's heavily shaded?
Yes, it's heavily shaded,
Yes.
that area, yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I just address a question to this witness?
Please.
The borough has an arborist.
Obviously,
So if you'd ask the question into the microphone, please.
So simply,
Yeah.
the way it looks now, all right, is that how you want it to stay and have some shrubbery added, or do you want some bushes that are in that area removed?
No, I don't want anything removed,
Okay.
but my concern is that when they go to dig the foundation for the addition, that the tree roots that are there could potentially become damaged, and then in effect, the trees would potentially die off. And those pine trees, while they're very large, they're barren at the lower half,
So
where
we
it's
can
just
commit
really
to that.
trunks.
That's
Yeah.
not a problem. I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
because if you said just the opposite, if you said, let's clear some stuff out, we could do that. If you say, leave the stuff there and add, we can do that as well. So that's fine. We can accommodate the neighbor.
So,
That would be a condition of any approval.
yeah, condition of
Gaps
approval.
will be filled in.
The gaps will be filled in, and they'll maintain privacy. Okay. Okay, Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Not seeing a show of hands, I will close this to the public. Sir, if you would care to make a closing
Sure,
statement?
and I'll stay from here. So as was clearly indicated, the addition is extremely modest. There's an existing encroachment to setback of 1.9 feet. This does not exacerbate the encroachment. It just continues along the same line. Further, the wall issue was, again, 35 and a half feet, where 35 feet is permitted, so no real issue there. In terms of detriment to the public good, there really isn't. There's nothing here that's increasing noise, increasing odor, increasing anything like that. So I think as a matter of law, you can find both the hardship of the C1 variance because of the existing position of the home, and you can find as a matter of law that there is no substantial detriment to the public good. So I would ask that the board vote approvingly on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Caroline, do you have any
thank
closing
you, Mr.
comments?
Chairman.
John?
Nothing further. Thank you,
Steve?
Mr. Chairman.
Nothing, sir.
Bob?
No comments.
Okay, we'll go with, we've already heard from the public, we've heard from the professionals, so board members, if you would, again, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you for your thorough testimony. Most of my issues were addressed during that. I appreciate you working with the home and trying to maintain the style and not look to completely rip it apart and start from scratch. Other than that, I think it's a small, modest addition that's going to assist your family, and I can pass it along to the rest of the board.
Thank you.
I thought the presentation, the summary was excellent. It answered all my concerns and properly states the hardships and the public good involved.
Yep, I echo what my colleague said, and I I love the house. It's architecturally just a beautiful home, and appreciate that you've maintained sort of the architectural integrity. It's good design. It's a modification that's consistent. To me, I think when you're done, it's going to look like it was always there.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
no issues with the application.
Agree with everything stated. This is a gem. Nice to hear about.
Thank you.
Sir?
Same.
Thank you.
Very nice house. Keeping it up the way it is. It's never knew it. Driven past it a million times and never knew until I went to look at it.
Thank you.
I agree with all the other comments, and I appreciate you taking your neighbors' concerns into account.
Of course, yes.
And from my standpoint, this is a house with character. The addition actually doesn't detract from it. It really adds to it. It'll look like it was always there. Maybe the architect originally wanted it that way. For whatever reason, didn't do it. I don't know. It looks like it called out for it. So I'm in favor of this as well. With that, I'll ask for a motion in the affirmative or negative on this. If no one offers one, I'll call you.
I'll make a motion in the affirmative that to approve calendar item 873-24. The applicant has met the requirements for the C variance and met the requirements for the negative factors, subject to the condition that the landscaping issue is addressed and that the gaps in the lower landscape are filled in.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Motion and a second. You'll be voting in place of the member who stepped down. Steve, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Camparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes.
Mr. Barros?
Yes.
Mr. Devine?
Yes.
Mr. Santaniello?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Michaelman?
Yes. Okay, so once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
We've approved that. And again, this will be reduced to writing at our next meeting, which would be March 18th. After that, the Friday after that meeting, it'll be published in the newspapers. People have 45 days within which to contest this, so please don't do anything before that 45 days, or if you do it at your own risk.
Okay.
But other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
that.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
I guess this, if we give that back to Bob. Now, it is 9:04.
This is the.
In a second, it's going to be 9:04. What we'll do is take a 10-minute break, so this way we can start the case without having to interrupt it. So at 9:14, we will begin. Please be in your seats. I don't want lots of noise going on there. So again, be back at 9:14. Thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Tom, nice
Right.
to see you.
It's 9:14.
I don't have to have any.
We are back in session. And with that, I will call, if I could find the number here. Got to have an agenda. I will call calendar 874-24 BCUW/Madeline Housing Partner LLC.
Mr. Chairman, the application's in order, the notices are in order, the board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker representing the applicant. The applicant is Bergen County United Way Madeline Housing Partners, LLC. I'm going to give you a brief opening statement before we move ahead with our first witness.
One second,
Mr.
please.
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this matter, so I'm
As do I.
recusing myself from calendar 874-24.
Okay, so we, and
Same here, as do I.
so we have two recusals. Hopefully, we'll have another appointment to second alternate. If not, we may have to pull in someone from the planning board to sit on this. Right now, we're down from 8 members to 6. Please, continue. And the 2 members who have recused themselves, if you would go into the caucus room, or sit out in the audience, but the caucus room is my preference. Please, sir.
And I will start over.
Yes.
Again, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker representing the applicant, Bergen County United Way, Madeline Housing Partners, LLC. My client has entered into an agreement with the Borough of Oradell, who owns the property, to develop this property, which is shown on your tax map as Block 223, lot number 5. The applicant is proposing to develop this property with a group home for persons with disabilities. The applicant is proposing to construct a 2-story home. And I would refer to you, and I've given you an exhibit list this evening. I'm going to refer to the 2022 Amendment to the Housing Element and Fair Share Plan that was adopted by the Borough of Oradell. On page 5 of that report, it confirms that the Borough of Oradell entered into an agreement with Bergen County United Way. The borough has agreed to donate the property to Bergen County United Way for the purposes of constructing a 4-bedroom group home and 2 separate apartments on Lot 5, Block 223, which is the property in question. The group home and the apartments will be occupied by adults with development disabilities and qualified as affordable housing units. It will be a project that will be labeled as an unmet need mechanism under the affordable housing requirements and is in conformity with the First Amendment of the June 18th settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing. This application this evening, members of the board, complies with that agreement and with the Fair Share Housing agreement, and that is the purpose of it being here. We are seeking preliminary and final site plan approval, certain variance approval, which I will explain, as well as soil movement approval. In connection with the application, we are seeking variances for lot coverage to be 41.6% versus the 40% that's permitted. We're seeking a combined side yard setback of 91.3 feet, where 109.3 feet is required. And we are seeking a floor area ratio of 5,930 square feet, where 3,938 square feet is the maximum permitted. Now, as an overview of this application before I call my first witness, we recognize this property is in the R-4 residential district. This is a permitted use in the zone. The lot requirement in this zone is 7,500 square feet. This property has over 19,000 square feet, so it's well beyond what the minimum is for a R4 lot. It has a width of 248 feet, which is again well beyond the 75-foot wide requirement. The applicant meets all the bulk requirements and standards for a group home as proposed, except for these total side yards, the lot coverage, and the floor area ratio. The group home is going to front on the street. It will consist of a first floor with 4 bedrooms, a second floor with a 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit. Under the RSIS standards, 7 parking spaces are required. The applicant is proposing to put 8 spaces in. It is submitted that variance relief is appropriate under NJSA 40:55D-70, C1 and C2. It's a recognized, obviously, it's a substantial benefit to the community in providing a group home, which provides a very needed use in this community as well as all other communities. It is something that is defined under the municipal land use law as an inherently beneficial use. And as we recognize what we are proposing here as part of the borough's mandatory affordable housing requirements. The variance relief, therefore, is appropriate under the C2 criteria because there is a substantial benefit in providing this that would far outweigh any of the detriments. It's recognized that we go back to the C1 criteria as far as the side yard setback is concerned, and our engineer will testify and planner will testify to this further, that we have an irregularly shaped lot. It's a classic irregular shape, 8 sides to it, if you will, and there is a certain way that measurements occur when you measure for a combined yard setback under your ordinance, and it's somewhat a convoluted measurement when you have to take into account the number of angles that's on this particular piece of property. And as I said, that will be further explained by our engineer. In connection with the overall lot coverage, we are at 41.6%, where 40% is the maximum permitted, and I would suggest to you that what we are proposing here is de minimis, something that will not be readily discernible on a lot that's over 19,000 square feet. As far as the floor area ratio is concerned, it's a very interesting dynamic and scenario that we have in this instance. We have a housing element that says this is where this housing should go. We have an R4 requirement that states where the requirements for all of our bulk requirements as well as the FAR. But we're also faced, and you'll hear the testimony from our architect, we're faced with code compliance to create the 4 units downstairs and the 2 units upstairs. The codes require, for this type of housing, certain size rooms and certain amount of rooms for this use. And what our architect will explain to you is that in order to meet the requirements under your housing element, in order to meet the requirements under your fair share agreement, we had to design a house that's going to meet the code requirements by the state to permit a group house to be built here, since at the end of the day, it's the state that has to approve these plans. And we have our architect with us tonight, who is very well versed in the code compliance and has designed a number of these buildings throughout the state for that purpose. So that's an overview of the application. As I said, we're seeking both a preliminary and final site plan approval. We're seeking the variance approval that I just went through very briefly, and we are seeking soil movement approval. That's an overview of the application. Unless there's any questions of me, I have 3 witnesses. I will call Mr. Toronto first, who is president of Bergen County United Way, to give you an overview of what the application is about and how it will function.
Before you continue, I note that there's no use variance requested. We're in the R4 zone, single-family housing, and yet talking about a group home, but no use variance. I would like to understand, and I believe members of the public would also like to understand, why this is permissible, and that the only thing you want to look at is the measurements of this unit, but the use itself, if it were in terms of the proper size, would go through without you having to appear before this board.
NJS 40:55D-66.1 is the section of the municipal land use law, which is the state law that permits group homes such as this in residential districts. That is what we are under, and that is why it's a permitted use. That, as I believe, if you review your planner's report, that she concurs with that this is a permitted use.
Okay.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so basically, the board has no ability to consider the group home aspect of it, but can only consider the variances that you've mentioned. The fact that you want to have a group home in this residential area is permitted, and the board has no authority to overrule that. Am I understanding that
That's true, Mr.
correct?
Chairman. Under the statute, it's treated as a single-family home.
So we're constricted by law from considering that. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And the purpose of my having Mr. Toronto testify is to take the mystery out of what this group home will function as. It's not the first time that Bergen County United Way has developed something like this, a much needed use in all communities. And so maybe perhaps to allay some of the concerns citizens have, and we've faced this in other towns also, We want to give an explanation of what this permitted use is all about.
I'm not interfering with your case. I just wanted to understand, and frankly, I wanted the members of the public to understand, because we do have an unusually large number of people here, and I think since they're all here now, it wasn't for the 3 previous applications.
I'm used to large crowds for these type of applications.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
please proceed.
Okay. Have Mr. Toronto sworn in.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding shall be true, self be God?
I do.
And for the record, state your full name, please, spell your last name, and give us your address.
It's Thomas, Thomas, Toronto, Toronto. I am president of Bergen County's United Way, 6 Forest Avenue, Paramus, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I can't tell you how delighted we are to be here finally in front of you with a project in Oradell, just a great community. We are affordable housing developers. We specialize, I would say, in building supportive housing. Supportive housing is housing for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Diagnoses can include Down syndrome, autism, MS. These are common diagnoses of folks who live in projects that we have built. We have been doing this for about 20 years now. We've completed 40 projects throughout northern New Jersey. We've built in Ridgewood, we've built in Cresskill, we've built in Old Tappan, we've built in Allendale, Mahwah, Ramsey. It might be easier to tell you the towns we haven't built in than to tell you the towns that we have. And we've been working collaboratively with the governing body here in Oradell for some period of time to identify a project, a supportive housing project particularly, very desirous of the municipality to be able to serve residents with IDD diagnoses. And we're just delighted that we were able to arrive on the Genther Avenue site. Reason being is that it's a large site, so it can absorb the number of residents that we're talking about. And the goal when working with the municipality was to try to provide as much housing as was reasonably possible for individuals, both to fulfill the affordable housing obligation or help fulfill the affordable housing obligation of the municipality, of the borough, and also to take advantage of an incentive or a benefit, if you will, that currently exists in affordable housing regulations that permit each bedroom of supportive housing to count as 2 units of affordable housing. So while 7 individuals will be residing in Genther Avenue, it'll actually be 14 units of affordable housing to put on the board for the municipality. The other, and perhaps for us, I guess, more important reason for the desirability of the location is that it's basically a block off the downtown. So that means access to transportation. That means access to amenities, to recreation, to employment opportunities for the residents. And I will say lastly, the other reason for our delight is because we know Oradell well. Up until several years ago, our offices were at 690 Kinderknack Road. We know this community well. I've run in 5K races here in Oradell. There's a spirit of family here. There's a spirit of community here. And there's an active group of parents who volunteer in recreation programs to help special needs individuals. So for all those reasons, we believe that this is just a wonderful opportunity for the borough in terms of its regulatory compliance, a wonderful opportunity for the community to embrace the residents who will eventually live here. And we're excited about the possibility. And I might add that we continue to own and maintain all the projects that we build. And I mentioned a litany of towns that we've built in, and I can tell you that we've been asked to come back and build again in those towns, Allendale, Ramsey, Mahwah, Tenafly, because of the success of the first projects that we built there. And I wanted to underscore that for you to let you know that we're not going to build and leave. We meticulously maintain the projects that we build from a maintenance perspective. You'll hear from our architect and see from our architect that we take very seriously the design of the projects that we build to blend into the aesthetic of the neighborhood and the community that we build in. So we're excited to be here, and we look forward to having a conversation and discussion about the residents, and I would just make one final point, which is in all of the projects that we have built, we of course follow fair housing rules and regulations, but every supportive housing project that we build has residents from the community that we are building in, unless residents haven't made application. So I am confident that a current resident of Oradell, a young adult with an intellectual or developmental disability, will be able to have an apartment or a home of their own here in Oradell. Thank you.
Mr. Toronto, just a few follow-up questions. I stated in my opening that your organization entered into an agreement with the Borough of Oradell for the construction of, on this site, of the 7-bedroom unit, correct?
That is correct.
And this project and this proposal that we have is going to fulfill that agreement?
That is correct.
Just a little bit of an overview on the operational aspects. We have 8 parking spaces provided. RSIS requires 7 spaces. Do you believe that, based upon your experience in having similar facilities in other communities, that the 8 parking spaces are sufficient for the needs of this project?
I believe that they're more than adequate. None of the residents of the group home or shared home will be drivers. On the independent living apartments, our current run rate, if you will, in terms of independent residents who have licenses is about 1 in 10, and actually probably now more like 1 in 12. So I can't tell you that there won't be someone there who won't be a driver, but the likelihood that there will be is minimal. So as a consequence, the parking area would be for visitors, family, and for the support staff for the 4-bedroom shared home.
And speaking of that, just give us an overview of, in the way these are operated in the other municipalities, the support staff and how that is used and how they are used at the facility.
Sure. So first and foremost, I'd ask that you, when you look closely at the design, one of the things that we are very keen on is making sure that there is a residential feel, a home-like feel to our projects. Despite the fact that it's considered a licensed group home, we want it to behave and look like a single-family home, like any single-family home in a neighborhood, and indeed it will. So the 4 residents of the shared home group home will require 24/7 support. So there'll be at least 2 staff members on site or on premise when residents are at home to help them with activities of daily living, preparing a meal, accompanying them perhaps for shopping trips. Most residents, most of the group home residents, leave during daytime hours to attend program and other kinds of organized activities, and then return home, just like hopefully we all do, to share a meal and have evening activities and then sleep. And on the weekends, there are very active recreation activities, Special Olympics. Folks lead very active and dynamic lives. So again, the home will behave very much like any other residential setting here in Oradell.
And in connection with the 8 parking spaces we're proposing, is it correct that we took that into consideration because we want to have the parking for the guests that come there as well as the staff be on site rather than in the street?
That is correct.
And in connection with, the question was raised in the engineer's report pertaining to trash pickup and the trash itself. We have an area for trash, correct?
That's correct. We have a refuse or trash enclosure to handle the cans and recycling bins, et cetera.
And it's handled very simply the similar way that a residence would be handled.
Precisely. Again, very keen on making sure that there's a residential feel and character to the home.
And another question that was raised in the engineer's report pertains to deliveries. Your experience in the type of deliveries that come to a facility like this based on the other facilities you operate.
This is, no different than any other home. I suspect that there will be, as we all are experiencing, Amazon deliveries, perhaps Grubhub, but no behavior different in terms of deliveries to this home. No commercial deliveries, no trucks, no drop-offs. Nothing of that nature. And I might further add, no increase in fire, police, or ambulance response in any of our existing projects. I'd expect nothing different here.
Thank you. I have no further questions of this witness at this time.
Thank you. Caroline?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions. Mr. Toronto, you had indicated that it was highly likely that one resident would probably be an Oradell resident. Can you go through how our residents selected to live both in the group homes as well as the independent living, please?
Sure. We maintain a very active database of parents and guardians who are interested and desirous of housing placements in the local community. We have several current residents of Oradell in our database right now. We are very careful in terms of our application process. We promote the availability of the application. We do that at about the 50% completion point of construction. So we certainly notify our database of parents and guardians, which now numbers over 1,000. And then we have different channels that we are regulatorily required to make the application available. We'd look to make the application available for download from the borough's website, as well as our own website. And we would also provide notification through the various service providers, support coordinators, and the State Department of Developmental Disability. So a real effort is made to gin up an applicant pool. Once that occurs, the primary considerations are diagnosis. It has to be an approved diagnosis recognized by the State Department of Developmental Disabilities. Income eligibility, of course. And then what we look for is strong local area networks of support. So if a young adult, we want to make sure that the young adult who is going to live, or the adult who is going to live in the residence, has the ability to live safely and securely.
Safely and what?
Safely and securely.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that we look for is, family, friends, service providers, connections in the local community or the neighboring communities. The drive shed, to use the planning term, is very, very narrow. So in all of our projects, our supportive housing projects, we're pulling from the immediate area. Family and guardians of folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, for understandable reasons, don't want to be too far away from their loved one. That loved one doesn't want to be too far away from their network of support.
Thank you. And you indicated one of your comments had to do with income eligibility. It's my understanding that the residents are what is considered very low income in terms of income eligibility, which is one of the affordable housing requirements is to provide a certain number of very low income units.
Yeah, typically, Caroline, Ms. Ryder, the individuals in the group home would all be at the very low income threshold, potentially for the apartments as well. Could be a very low or low. I might add that the independent living apartments, what we term as independent living apartments, and perhaps for some of the folks in the shared home or group home as well, employment opportunities do exist. So folks might be employed at ShopRite. They could be employed in the mailroom or in other activities in a local corporation. They could be employed in a downtown store. So again, one of the other benefits of being in a community of like Oradell with an active downtown is employment opportunities for our residents.
I think that was it for my questions right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure, I guess this is probably most appropriate for you. We recommend in our letter that a 15-foot access easement be provided along the northerly property line, as it's my understanding that the borough, from time to time, has to traverse through that area, I guess, to access the rear lot. Is that something that I guess you would be amenable to?
We'll let our engineer address that.
Okay.
I mean, let's recognize that at this point, it's still the borough's property, so we can, it'll be conveyed eventually, and we'll have our engineer comment on it. We saw that comment.
Thank you. That's all I have for this witness. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Steve?
Maybe you can clarify something for me. You stated that the one resident of Oradell would be allowed or would be chosen.
I don't believe I said one resident. I said that I said that we make a real effort to draw applications from this local community. It could be one, it could be more, it could be none. It really depends on the applicant pool and how many folks are interested.
So if four, families are looking to, use this facility, are they in a priority to other applicants? How does that work?
So we have discretion, because this is supportive housing, unlike, say, affordable senior or affordable family or veterans housing, which we also build. discretion falls on us in terms of selection. And as I said earlier, we look very closely at strong local area networks of support. So, and as I mentioned, in all of our supportive housing, we have residents from that local community that we've built in, a minimum of one and sometimes more. And in some cases, we have none, not because of folks being excluded, but because folks did not make application for a particular project. So I would expect that to be the case here in Oradell, that we will have applications for this housing from current residents of the community. I can't tell you that there's a quota of 1, 2, or 3. It really depends upon the applicant pool.
Does the fact that the municipality donated the property, or does most projects have municipalities donating the
They
property?
do. The form of support, and it's true here in Oradell, in this borough as well, a common form of support from us is a piece of municipal land conveyed by the municipality, plus an allocation or a disbursement from the borough's municipal housing trust fund to the extent available and possible. And both of those conditions are true here in Oradell. And that's important, obviously, for the pro forma, and certainly important in terms of the attractiveness of this particular piece of property. But it's also important in terms of our underwriting through the State Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, which looks for municipal or borough commitment. So clearly conveying a valuable piece of property, conveying a sum from the borough's municipal housing trust fund are all important considerations for underwriting by the State Housing Mortgage Finance Agency.
So who reviews these applications?
We do.
You do totally? Okay.
I'm sorry?
You do totally, your organization does?
Correct.
So is there a process of appeal that if, say, a resident wasn't chosen and they thought they should be, is there a process for that?
We certainly sit down and interview every resident or potential resident for the projects that we build. We interview their family, guardian, or meet with their family and guardian. We also touch base with the service providers that they may be involved with to get as full a picture and as complete a picture of the individual, both for their eventual success as well as our comfort that the person will integrate well. In some cases, we're making roommate matches. We're putting people together in a living situation, so we want to make sure that there are complementary skills, that folks blend together well. So there's a lot of things that go into tenant selection. And I might add, I'm not the arbiter of who resides there. We have a former County of Bergen Human Services Director who works with us, very deeply experienced in the field. We have 3 housing services coordinators who also have deep experience in working with the population. So there's a group of, I would say, subject matter experts, individuals who are very, very good at making tenant selection. And we very, very rarely have anyone fall out of housing once selected. Unless they move to another state, which has happened.
So why did you say one resident initially?
If I said, I think I might have said it would be. I'm not sure what I said, but I
understood you to say one resident.
Well, I take that back. It might be possible that out of the 7 residents, 4, 5, 3, 2 could be from Oradell. There's no set number suggesting that it would be highly unusual that there would not be someone living on Genther who wasn't already living here in Oradell.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Bob?
No questions.
Okay. Before I open it to the members, if the board were to consider this positively and approve it, would it be acceptable under law for us to have a condition that you must give priority to Oradell residents and those with a basis in Oradell, or does the law prohibit
I'll let
that?
Mr. Reagan tell you.
Mr. Chairman, the important thing is that the persons selected for the various units are eligible to provide the borough with an affordable housing credit. I think if you do that, you may run into a problem with the rules that the state has established with respect to the selection of persons in affordable units. For example, putting aside the special needs component of this development, If it's just a traditional inclusionary development with 80 or 85% market, 15 or 20% affordable, those affordable units have to go through a process. They're selected and qualified by the borough's administrative agent, who I believe Oradell uses Piazza and Associates, as do many municipalities. I don't think you can just direct that the units be occupied solely by Oradell residents.
No, I'm not saying solely.
Or priority even.
Priority. But if I'm understanding you correctly, and you'll have to correct me then, my understanding, we could give that requirement, however, we would then lose the credits to affordable.
You may very well lose
We may, so unless it also is something that would impact affordable housing, we could state that it must be priority. I won't say you have to select someone, but priority to Oradell residents. But if they don't qualify for us to get a credit for affordable housing, we don't get the credit.
I'm not sure will comply with the applicable requirements. Again, you don't want to lose the 14 credits that you would get here. It's a big number.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I also just want to bring up the fact, as Mr. Toronto referenced, that the borough, in addition to donating the property, has made a donation from its affordable housing trust fund, and there are stipulations that go with that. And I'm fairly certain that we cannot restrict or prioritize Oradell residents, and with the trust fund, with the way that the trust fund rules are. I appreciate what you're saying and what you're doing. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of the fact that we did utilize trust fund, that the borough did authorize the use of trust fund dollars, which was part of the arrangement.
In the early days of affordable housing, you could say 50% would have to go to the residents of the particular municipality. That went out the window probably 20 years ago or thereabouts.
It did, and I can say, more than being fairly certain, I am certain that when you have the type of trust fund that you have in your municipality, and under the regulations there, as well as fair share housing regulations, trying to impose any type of a condition for this, not only would you lose credits, but it would be discriminatory.
Okay. So,
Chairman, if I may, if I can try to give you and the board some comfort, I can tell you that it's sort of a naturally occurring community will evolve here. And it will almost certainly include residents of Oradell because of how all of the other projects that we have built have been selected. And I just wanted to add one more thing. There are currently 2 former residents of Oradell, 2 young adults who, one was in Tenafly and one was in Ramsey in projects that we've built. There's going to be perhaps someone from Paramus or perhaps someone from Hillsdale, hard to predict. But there'll be a mix of folks here. But
I understand.
We're going to achieve what you're looking for.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand the depth of authority that this board has, and we don't have authority in that. That we can give you our preference and our hope and put our faith in you that you will give preference to Oradell residents, but we do not have the ability to impose that upon you.
You are correct.
That's correct.
Okay. Again, I didn't intend to take up the time on the board. I generally like board members to ask questions first. So does any board member have a question? No question? No questions from the board? Okay. Just a second. No, hold on. I'm going to open up to the public. We have one person who's raised their hand already. In order to be recognized, you would have to raise your hand, and then I'll call upon you in order at my discretion. If a question has been asked and you wanted to ask that question, please don't say to yourself, I know the question was asked, but I didn't ask it, so I'm going to go up and do it again. Right? Let's be respectful of the time and everybody else. And it's only for questions to the witness based upon the testimony the witness has given. No comment at this point. So with that, if you would come up and state your name and address.
Hi. Nancy Kostopoulos, 240 Maple Avenue. I have a question and a clarification. This attorney, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name.
Bruce Whitaker.
Mr. Whitaker, when you opened up, you said that the home would be 5,947 square feet.
5,930 square feet.
5,900 and what?
30 square feet.
Okay. The letter that I received, I am within 200 feet, stated 5,647.
Yes, so we've noticed for an FAR, and we have found that there is a modification. There's also in my notice a request for any modifications are permitted, so we have the all-encompassing language.
The notice is adequate, no issue.
I'm so, I don't understand. What, so...
The notice satisfies the statutory requirements for the hearing to proceed.
Okay. Of Mr. Toronto, now a question. The trust fund donation, was it $50,000?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
I thought that's what it was.
No, it went up to 75.
Oh, okay.
Up to 75.
And if you would state your name and address.
I thought the
Carol Ennis, 272 Genther Avenue. Lot. Carol Ennis, 272 Genther Avenue, Lot 7. I'm asking for consideration on two things. The generator. I understand generators cycle, and I don't know if it's once a day, once a week. I don't know the particulars of that. The issue is the way storms are now, there is the likelihood of it running and making high decibel noise 24/7 for 5 or more days, the way that the storms are now. So I'm asking that it be moved to the back of the building next to the air conditioner. That's one. Two, the seepage pits on my side, on the south side of the building.
Are these questions?
That's what I'm concerned
Yes,
about.
yes, these are questions,
Well, she
yes.
did ask the question if the generator can be moved, so now
And this would
let's...
not be the witness to testify to that, but our engineer will address that.
Okay. You don't object to the...
I don't object.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Please
ask the
continue.
next question about the seepage pits?
Actually, he didn't testify on seepage pits, so...
That would be the engineer.
It's going to be the
So
engineer.
when the engineer comes, would you hold that question for
Yes.
the engineer? Thank you.
I don't think it's necessary.
You keep referring to Lot 5. I'm in Lot 7. What happened to Lot 6? Where is it?
We just take the designation off the tax map.
Okay. They use the tax map.
Okay, and the variance for the side of the building, what side are you talking about?
We're going to have that explained by our engineer. Mr. Toronto didn't testify as to any of the variance relief.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Yes, sir. If you'd come up and state your name and address.
My name is Jaroslav Kurash, Jaroslaw Kurach, and I'm at 273 Garden Place. So I share about 120 feet of the fence with the proposed property. My question is, you were gifted a lot in a single-family neighborhood where the average home size is 2,000 square feet. Why are you asking to build 4-family house on a lot like this? I heard everything you said before.
Well,
But it comes down to size.
I will
and
repeat
how
what I
people-
said before. The Borough of Oradell and the applicant entered into an agreement in which the Borough of Oradell is conveying the property for the specific purpose of them constructing, our applicant constructing, a 7-bedroom facility. And the codes in the state of New Jersey for a group home requires a certain size building. And on the basis of that, the building that we are proposing meets the state requirements.
Yes, as residents in a quiet neighborhood with about 2,000 square foot family houses, and we moved in there to achieve certain look. We like the way the neighborhood looks. Okay, so you're building something and you're restricted to 4,000 square feet. You're asking for 30% more. So somebody gives you a lot.
I'm going to ask for a question.
I was listening for it. Let's see if he gets to the question.
Yeah, so
keep going.
So why are you building 6,000 square foot house in a neighborhood where there are only 2,000 square feet houses?
Because when the...
That's not
Your question's been
considered.
asked. Let's hear the answer.
Okay.
Because the Borough of Oradell entered into this agreement for this large piece of property to meet part of their affordable housing needs, and on the basis of that, they set the standard for the 7-bedroom facility. This board doesn't have jurisdiction at this point to upset that agreement. That agreement was made between the governing body and the applicant. We are here now to conform to that agreement, meet the requirements of that agreement, and the state code requires us to have a certain size building to meet those requirements, and that's what we are proposing.
Okay, is that agreement in writing and it's available for inspection for anybody?
I have it as an exhibit tonight, and it is available, and it has been available.
I guess me and...
Steve, is that on the website yet?
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay.
And
So
it's
should-
Exhibit A-6, which was on the exhibit list that was provided by council.
So you should be able to find it on the oradell.org website.
Okay.
If not, Steve's office has it for you to inspect.
Okay. I have more questions, but they are more technical engineering, so...
Please hold that for when the engineer testifies.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Not seeing a show. You want to come?
Unless I could ask a question about the size.
Oh, come on up.
Just to supplement my answer, the agreement goes back to 2018.
So,
hold on. Please state your name and address again.
Nancy Kostopoulos, 240 Maple Avenue. So, if that's the case, why are we here asking for a variance?
Because, I will explain, as I said in my opening statement, the borough created this agreement requiring the 7 units. What was not taken into account in 2018 was, and you'll hear this from our architect, what the state requires as far as the size of the building to accommodate those 7 units. And so that's why your code doesn't comply with the requirements under the agreement. So on the basis of that, we technically have to come here for the variance, and we will be providing you with planning testimony that will indicate all the reasons why, under the municipal land use law, section 40:55D-7D, under the variance for an FAR, floor area ratio, why it's a necessity here in order to meet the requirements of the agreement. We're not overbuilding, we are meeting code requirements.
So, does that mean that the residents have no ability to try to adhere to the actual zoning regulations?
I will answer that by saying every resident has the right to seek variance relief before this board. That's a state law under the municipal land use law. And everybody can come here to make a request for an exception to the rule, so to speak, which is what a variance is, before a zoning board in their municipality. And that's what we are doing.
And to be a little more practical on that, the board has very little ability to overturn this. We do have the opportunity to say no, but we're going to have some darn good reasons to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, do you disagree with what I've just stated?
I agree with you entirely. And not only is it part of the borough's affordable housing plan, it's set forth in the housing element and fair share plan. It doesn't require a D1 use variance because it's permitted under section 66.1 of the MLUL. But even if it were not permitted, there would be some strong argument for a D1 use variance because it's an inherently beneficial use. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
It's not a close question, Mr.
The
Chairman.
group home is part of the definition of inherently beneficial use in the municipal land use law. It's not one where you can make a decision, is it inherently beneficial? It's actually defined that way.
Okay. So, to state it in my words, not the attorney's, the board is limited to an extraordinary extent in what we may do. If we want to say no, we're going to have to carefully consider it and give extraordinary reasons to say no. It's hard to swallow for some people who don't want to see this, but we have to comply with the law. We can't make it up. We can't substitute our own judgment for that of our elected officials. It's that simple. Sir, if you want to come up and... But only questions, nothing about what I've said, only questions for the witness. State your name and address.
Bob Ennis, 830 Riverdale Road in town. If the town said they were going to build this for 7 people, Could they have said 4 or 5 people, and thus we would have had a smaller home?
I don't know what the town could or could
Is
not
there a
have done.
minimum requirement
I'm gonna
under the
answer the
law
question.
that there has to
Please,
be
sir.
7 people
Okay,
or more?
Let him answer the question. You could follow up.
The board entered into, the governing body entered into an agreement with Fair Share Housing, and as part of that agreement, which was a judgment in Superior Court, on the basis of that, in order to meet their fair share, the governing body used as their inventory this particular piece of property and are getting credits for them, the 7 units, which will come up to 14 credits. And so that's part of a judgment that was entered in the Superior Court.
Yes, but the town could have said for 5 units.
The town could have I'll answer your question, the town could have said that they were going to put it on another piece of property in town, but the reality is, in 2018, the town didn't do that.
So if they had said 5, we wouldn't be
well-
having some of these discussions today.
Right, but the point is, we have what the council gave us, and
I
we must live
understand
with
that.
it. Yeah, we must live with it. All right. Do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am. State your name and address, please.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name's Geraldine Loria. I live at 284 Genther Avenue, and I've lived in this town since the year 2000 and on Genther Avenue since 2005. I will share with you that...
Question, please.
It has to be a
Yes.
question.
I will share with you that the space behind the Genther Avenue site that's proposed here is a meadow, and it also handles a lot of floodwater that comes off the road. And the space, particularly on this lot, is forested and it is cherished by everybody who lives in that neighborhood. And so I ask the individuals at this table, which I don't see on this drawing, is there any provision to save a single one of the trees on that forested lot?
Our engineer will be testifying to that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name and address.
It's 50 Beverly Road.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't.
Paul Latunas.
Latounas. Isn't it true that the United Way asked for an additional $25,000 for the trust fund?
Beyond the jurisdiction or a question that's really not
The
relevant.
dollar number has no bearing on the board's consideration of the application.
Well, I was at a meeting when they passed it. So it's not 50,000, it's 75,000.
It's irrelevant to our discussion.
Okay, I just want to clear that up because you said it was 50,000.
Excuse me. Yes, go ahead.
I misspoke. It is $75,000. I was thinking about,
Okay.
in my mind, what the pre-development expenses so far have been for
That's
the
fine.
project, which are around 50.
Thank you, I just want to correct that, that's all. When you're going to put the inhabitants there that are going to be there, the people that are going to live there, you said that there are other areas that you have that may have Oradell residents there. Would you transfer them there if they wish? Would you be able to transfer them there to Oradell
Chairman,
so
this
that
has
they could be
nothing
closer
to do with the board's consideration of the application. It's totally irrelevant.
That has nothing, yeah.
Well, he
As
mentioned
stated.
it before.
But whether or not they can transfer, we can't consider that. We can only consider the variances that are being requested.
Okay.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just so you understand, these are individual residents who have leases. The folks who are living from that I happen to know who are from Oradell, who live in other projects, are very involved and content in those communities. I doubt that they would want to necessarily transfer, but we don't transfer people. It is up to the individual, who make up their own minds about where and how they choose to live. So it's not a question that we transfer people between locations.
Well, I would think that the person that lives somewhere else would want to be closer to their parents.
You have your answer.
That's presumptuous, yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go on. Okay. The right-of-way to the cemetery, Is there going to be a right-of-way to go there to that cemetery that we have there? Or
That
does...
was our engineer.
Oh, we're going to talk to the engineer, okay.
Again, questions of the witness only on his testimony.
I'm trying. Okay, the people that, people laughed when I said inhabitants, so I said the people that are going to live there.
How about residents?
Yeah, residents. Are they going to be able to drive and use the parking area?
Asked and answered already.
You did? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yes, the answer is yes. Those who are able to will be able to drive.
Okay. Will you provide a charging station there for the...
A
for the
charging
cars?
station for EV, that's not a question
Not
for
for
this.
him, it's nothing that we have to do with our engineer.
All right. Well, as far as, well, maybe I shouldn't be asking some of these questions. Wait a minute.
The thought occurred.
Well, going back to the trees, it's a resident asked here now. I mean, there's a lot of trees there. I went by there yesterday just to check it out, and seems there's quite a few trees. And when you remove them, will you abide by the tree ordinance?
Any applicant has to abide by the ordinances of a municipality.
So you will pay the fines for the removal of the trees and plant trees?
You have your answer.
Yeah,
You have
you
your
have the
answer,
answer.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Taxes.
Irrelevant.
Taxes are irrelevant.
Yep.
United Way pays the taxes or the resident?
Irrelevant.
It's irrelevant to our consideration.
Okay. All right. I'd just like to make a comment that I like your rendering very much.
No comments at this point, sir.
Your rendering is excellent, beautiful.
When I say no comment, I mean it. Please, sit down. Yes. Do we have any other questions for the witness? Please come up and state your name and address.
Hi. My name is Eileen Keeley. I lived on Camden Street, and one of my questions are these residents criminals when you interview them to come here? Or do they use illegal drugs? Are you finding that?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
All right, by the way, no demonstrations. I know the need is great, so if you have to applaud, do it with one hand. Okay? All right, now, do we have any other questions? Not seeing a show of hands, I will close this to the public. Sir?
Call Mr. Vergona, our architect. Well done.
Mr. Whitaker, before we swear in Mr. Vergona, do you want anything marked as an exhibit in connection with this testimony?
It's all on the exhibit list.
Okay, that's
Yes,
fine.
Yeah, the whole list has it.
We'll include that, BA3.
Two has been updated.
Okay.
Should we just
We'll do that,
include
yeah.
Would BA3, I assume.
We're going to do an update to his exhibit, and I'll mark that at the end.
Okay. Mr. Vergona, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give Ms. Persing shall be true self the truth?
I do.
And for the record, state your full name, please, and spell your last name.
My name is James Vergona, and spelled V as in Victor, I-R-G-O-N-A.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vergona has been qualified as an architect before many boards in Bergen County. I recommend he be deemed so qualified in connection with this application.
And we do accept
21
you.
boards in Bergen
Yes.
County or more.
Okay.
You
So make
have
it 22.
exact number. That's very good.
Thank you. And I'm just going to go a little bit further in your qualifications. That is, Mr. Vergona, as a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, have you been involved in the design of group homes for Bergen County United Way?
Yes, I've actually been designing group homes since 1993. And ironically, my architectural exam for the state boards was a group home design. So I have designed probably 15 to 25, somewhere in there, group homes in the state of New Jersey.
And in connection with doing that type of design, you know what the requirements are with the state of New Jersey?
I am, yes, familiar with all of those requirements, yes.
And so in creating a plan that's an exhibit here this evening, the architectural plans, you have to take into account what is required from the state codes in order to create this 7-bedroom unit.
We take into account the ordinances, the state construction codes, and of course, the regulations and standards from other state authorities having jurisdiction, yes.
And there are standards for group homes.
Yes, there are.
With that said, I would like you to explain to the board what is being proposed here from an architectural standpoint, and the reasons why rooms or whatever are the sizes that they are. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. I want to make reference, is this the mic I'm going to use for that?
Yes.
Or should I speak louder?
No, no.
Use the microphone.
Well, use the
Okay.
microphone and speak louder.
Thank you. I'll jump right into the group home design because that is the question asked, and that probably will help answer some of the things or questions and concerns that board members and public have regarding the application. The group home is designed, we designed a group home here, 4 bedrooms. Group homes have to be built between 3 to 5 bedrooms, otherwise it won't be defined as a certain type of group home which will accommodate supporting housing residents. Specifically, there are many things, criteria that we have to be concerned with when we design group homes, of which this design meets those criteria. They get to things about egress time and evacuation times, all the way down to things regarding room sizes and spaces. When we designed this group home, we had to design it with the required sizes of rooms that meet the state criteria for bedroom sizes, for example. So we have 120 square foot bedrooms. These are all numbers that do not include the walls and the structure required to support or enclose these spaces. So we have 4 bedrooms of approximately 120 square feet each. Each resident in that group home must have storage. Now, let's just step back. What are we doing? We're designing a home in an area where we know there's probably a high water table. Even one of the members of the public mentioned the water in the area. We're not putting a basement in this group home. We're not putting it there because it would incur an expense. It would add to floor area, or could add to floor area. And we also didn't do it because it is not easy to accommodate a basement and elevate the floor construction off the ground and then make it a handicapped accessible facility, which is another requirement. So for sake of handicapped accessibility, the home is constructed on a slab at grade. The engineer will testify to the grades, but my purpose of explaining this is that without the basement, we must provide the storage for each tenant of 60 square feet, along with those bedrooms of 120 each. So when you consider the construction that must create the space and enclose it, it's almost 200 square feet per bedroom that's required, or per resident, just for the bedroom portion. Then we have to consider we need an office. Every one of these homes has a staff member that must be here 24 hours a day. And for that staff member to be here 24 hours a day, they must have an office. That office is located in the plan in the center area towards the bedrooms. And that must be there because they are usually there at night. And the purpose of that office is to have the residents near the staff for any events that may occur at night, for people that can't sleep, people that need attention. If they have to administer any medications to them for whatever reasons, it would happen from that office. That's why that is there. In addition, the group home has to have fully accessible bathrooms, not adaptable bathrooms. So fully accessible bathrooms are quite a bit larger than an adaptable bathroom. They must have the ability to fit a wheelchair. That must turn and make a radius of 5 feet 7 inches. They increased all those requirements for handicap codes in the 2021 New Jersey International Building Code. So because of these requirements, the bathrooms, which would normally be a 5 by 8 standard bathroom in a home, in these cases are 8 by 11. They're large. So we have to add those sizes in. And then there must be, of course, general living space, which has to accommodate 4 residents, staff, and any visiting family. So that's what that space is for in the rear. And finally, we must incorporate a powder room, a separate bathroom that cannot be used by anyone but the public, and separate from the residents because they don't share bathrooms. Member of the public, visiting person, anybody visiting, family member, cannot really use the resident bathroom for their use. And because of that, we added another bathroom, so you have another bathroom in the group home. And finally, there's a den, and the den has to be there. There's a required quiet space, they call it, by the Department of Developmental Disabilities, the DDD, which licenses group homes. They require that den. That den is for private meetings with parents to discuss things that are protected by HIPAA law and other kind of, medical conversations, treatments, coordination, personal experience, things happening in the unit in the house that other members of the community can't hear. They're not allowed to hear. So there's a private room, and that's what that den is for. So when you add all that up, that's what we provided, and you end up with an area of a home that is roughly the square footage that you see here. The group home is 2,997 square feet, and it has a laundry room. The laundry room accommodates a turning radius because residents are encouraged to do their own laundry if they can, or at least are taught the machines and how to use it, or are accompanying any of the staff members in that room. They're never in there alone. And the kitchen's a fully functioning, workable kitchen. So just to round out all the spaces in the home, that's how we achieve the square footage for the home. This home also has a community room, and it has 2 storage rooms in it, well, what I call utility rooms in it. Now, the utility rooms can't go in the basement. We don't have a garage, so they end up in the home. That's part of the square footage that you would see in a regular home in the garage. For example, there's an electrical room, and then there's a sprinkler closet and water meter room. And there's probably going to be a gas meter somewhere outside of the home, so we don't have to provide that inside. But those 2 rooms, the sprinkler closet and the water meter room, are adding approximately 130 square feet to the building on the main floor. The community room, which is a modest 16.5 by 18 feet, that room is there because this group home is attached to 2 supportive housing, affordable housing units. And when you combine the affordable housing independent living arrangement, which is upstairs, and I'll get into that in a minute, with the group home, the DDD likes to have a facility or a room within the structure in which there could be a common congregating space for activities in which they interact, all the residents of the facility interact, or the residents of the home. And then that interaction entails many things. It can entail family events, it can entail birthday parties, it can entail arts and crafts kind of activities, but depending on the resident, different advanced stages of that. There may be young adults, there may be older adults, and so that room also offers the benefit if any of them want to explore music or play an instrument. All of that can happen in that room without disturbing the rest of the residents, which is why the DDD encourages that room. Okay. The second floor of this home has 2 apartments, a 1-bedroom apartment and a 2-bedroom apartment. That will be designed, or they are designed, in conjunction with or in response to your fair share housing settlement agreement, in which 2 more units are permitted with this residence, and they are for independent living residents. Those are residents who have more capabilities to live independently. They do not require 24-hour care or staff members to be there. There's usually a complementing staff caregiver or sponsor on the first floor of this apartment, home, that also can, check in on the residents upstairs, but they live independently. The 1-bedroom unit, which faces the front of the project, is the unit that you would see characterized by these windows across the facade upstairs. That's the 1-bedroom unit. The 2-bedroom unit is in the rear of the building and looks at the rear yard, and that is over the main living space of the house. The majority, or at least 40% of the second floor is not used here. In other words, 40% of the floor area is roof and a 1-story portion of the group home. So when designing the group home, we were trying to create a home that had its center massing towards the middle of the lot. If you look on the lot on the site plan, which is, well, we'll use mine since we haven't introduced that yet. That portion of the 2-story space is actually in the deepest portion of the lot, right in the middle. And we did that because it would have the least impact on the neighbors, being towards the middle. the lot being exceptionally wide. The front of this lot is 248 and a half feet wide. And the minimum lot size is 75. So we've exceeded that by over 3 times, or the property exceeds that over 3 times. Therefore, locating the house in the middle has, and the 2-story portion in the middle, I should say, has the least impact on the surrounding neighbors. Then the bedrooms, which are located to the north or to the left as you look at the front, are all 1 story in height, and that is this area right here. And so the height of the house comes down as it grows towards the neighbors or extends towards the neighbors. The advantage to that is that, of course, it's only a 1-story home facing the neighbor with the least impact, and it's got a setback of over 35 feet, which actually exceeds the minimum setback permitted in the zone by a substantial margin. The deficiency in our side yard occurs on this, what we call the southeast corner of the building, up here. And this is because the lot has a severe angle or taper to it, and that will be spoken of by our engineer and testified to, with our engineering providing more detail about that setback. But that is why this variance has been noted on our plans, and that is because of that one corner and the angled property line. But we far exceed the setback when we get to the front, towards the front of the house, and the 248-foot distance is so wide that most of the southern part of the property is on an easement where the parking lot is. The home on the outside is characterized by a horizontal siding with a stone base. That is, and it's also designed in such a way that we're trying to use the influence of the prairie style. Why? Why are we using the prairie style here? A couple of reasons. The main reason, of course, is that prairie style architecture emphasizes horizontality, which keeps the house looking low. That's part of the reason. The second is because they're all hip roofs. Prairie style roofs are hip roofs. That means they slope up in all directions instead of gables. Your ordinance requires that eaves be no higher than 22 feet above grade, any point around the house. We are complying with that. The the hip roofs allow us to do that. The hip roofs keep the main roof down as well, because hip roofs have lower pitches than gable roofs in general terms. Therefore, the height of this house, when it's permitted to be 33 foot 3 inches from our first floor to the ridge, which when added to the average grade is a 35-foot height limit, this house would actually be about 28 feet high from the first floor to the ridge. So the house, when calculated with the average grade, is going to be 5 feet lower than the permitted by ordinance, maybe, in that range, 5 feet lower. We're trying to keep the house low. And the advantage to doing that, of course, is that it has even less impact, the bulk, on the surrounding neighbors and neighborhood. So that's the architectural treatments we're using, or design strategies we're using to keep this house lower and mass less. Now, we also added a porch on the right side of the house. The porch adds scale. It lowers that elevation and provides a 1-story element on the right side of the house facing the parking. The porch is an octagonal piece, which I like, because as we come around the bend in the street, that's the first thing you'll see is that octagonal piece of the house. So there's a complement visually to the traveling motorist in the house entryway, because that's also where the entrance is. The 1-story porch also mimics the 1-story piece to the north, so it looks like there's an implied horizontal line through the home at the 1-story height. That's why this bay is located here in the middle of the home, to emphasize that there could be this horizontal implied line. Also, visually, that makes the house appear lower or more horizontal. So we did that as well. The house will be built, it's a wood construction home, because it's a small home. It's fully sprinklered home, because DDD requires that. It's also going to be fire-rated construction, because that's also required by state regulations for this type of home. What else can I add to this?
The material that's being used for the facades of the house.
Okay, all mechanical equipment is located inside the home. They are all simplified split system type units with air conditioning and heating, both for the group home and for the apartments above. The utilities are separated for the two. It's not one, it's, for the two apartments above, I think they're going to be separated because it's easier for them to do that for the purposes of management. That's the tendency for all of our projects are built that way. The materials on the outside, we are showing here a cement board siding and panel type of construction, or finish, I should say. I mentioned the stone base. The stone base is going to be some kind of either natural or manufactured stone of an inch thick that's applied to the facade, or an inch and a half thick, applied to the base of the building. It then forms a panel in the middle towards this area here to the left of the centerpiece. The centerpiece is characterized by horizontal siding at the lower floor with a panelized system above to complement the window patterns on the top. The windows shown are casement windows because that's in keeping with the prairie style. The grills shown are also shown with divisions that are complementary of the prairie style. And the columns that are outside are simplified ionic type column, Doric type column, excuse me, which is a slender tapered column that is manufactured out of a fiberglass composite in a color that will complement the rest of the trim of the house. All the materials require minimal maintenance, which is good, but they all maintain their luster and their finishes over time. They're durable. We've done at least a dozen projects with Bergen County United Way, Madeline Partners with these type of finishes. I encourage everyone here to get a list of those and go look at them. I think you'll be impressed by them. They are really built to a high standard.
We are proposing 5,930 square feet, is that correct?
Yes.
And would it be correct to say that that 5,930 square feet is warranted by the code requirements that you've testified to this evening?
Certainly, all of the describing factors I've mentioned for the group home contribute to that, certainly. In addition, I should note that the 5,930 square feet, I believe, includes the mechanical space. So technically, we may be 130 less than that when considering floor area. The reason why it's just included is because the way we arrange the space in that one corner can change, and that number could be 130. It could end up being 100. It could end up being 160. We don't know what that's really going to be until we design all the mechanical systems, or the engineer designs the utilities and infrastructure for the project, which won't happen until a later date. Safe side, rather than try to put anything past anybody here, 5930 is what it really is. That's really what.
So we really worked on the maximum number it could be.
Yeah. I would like to, stress that, we're trying to do that. We're trying to just be forward about it, open about it.
I have nothing further to witness at this time.
Okay. John?
Yeah, of this witness, just quick question, and I think it's on the renderings and presentation plans you're showing tonight, the parking lot layout as compared to the what I believe the board has.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I just want to confirm that the civils will
Civils will dictate, but the drawing I'm referring to, A2, and this was referred to with Mr. Regan previously, has been updated by my firm on 2/15/24 to match the civil.
Okay.
So this rendering rendered here that I'm pointing to is actually updated with the parking lot matching the drawing that was actually on the screen. That is the old one.
Yep.
And this is the new one.
Okay.
Are we going to get that?
And we're talking, you sure? Oh, absolutely. I could email it now if you'd like. I don't think that's what you're looking for, but I can. The rendering we're looking at up there, though, and this rendering both show 8 spaces. So we haven't changed any of the significant parts of the application, just the arrangement of the lot.
We'll mark the 215 rendering, plan rather, as A7.
And I will distribute those.
Mr. Chairman, of this witness, that's all I have. Thank you.
Caroline?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the parking layout, will that also include that the dumpster location would be matching then?
Dumpster?
Sorry, the waste.
Trash
enclosure.
Trash enclosure, sorry.
I don't foresee a dumpster here. I foresee some.
My apologies, yes.
But my trash location is actually now coordinated with the engineer's drawings and reflects the same.
I do believe.
You do not see it because it's.
No, thank you. I do actually believe one of the sets of plans did refer to dumpster, but you're correct on that.
That has since been changed.
Thank you.
No dumpster needed.
Is there any signage proposed?
Usually, Tom, what's that? In this case, that's all we're doing, right? Street number only.
That's good.
Yep. None proposed on our plans, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you. I think several of my comments will be addressed once we see the revised plans that were referenced. So I think for now, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Steve?
Your revised architectural plans, is it just the parking area, or is it the structure itself?
Structure is exactly the same, just the parking area.
In the first floor elevation, floor plan, you have your office by the bedrooms.
Let me explain. Yes, you're right. On the floor plan, I think I relabeled what was the laundry room. Well, I have an office and the bedrooms, and the rear is labeled office, but it's a laundry room.
Oh, okay. And the kitchen is is in the living room, dining room, kitchen area?
Yes, right
Okay.
here in the living, dining, kitchen area. It's one larger space, so to speak.
Okay.
It's combined.
And up on the second floor, the same thing with those kitchens or with the island?
Within that, to be specific, in unit A, the kitchen is up to the top of the sheet, to the top of the unit, which would be the eastern wall of the unit, part of that living area, we call it. And then on unit B, the living area includes a kitchen, which is to the north of that room on the left side, yes.
Thank you.
And excuse me, are those
all right.
covered in the plan revisions you just referenced?
They were always that way. There's no change.
Right,
I'm just clarifying where they are.
right. The plans didn't actually indicate the word kitchen, though, if I recall correctly. I just want to be clear about
Oh, no,
that.
it just says living area, and it just includes the cabinetry in there for them. But no, it doesn't label it as a kitchen. I will label it if you'd like as a kitchen.
Is it, I guess.
It's a fully functioning
It's
kitchen.
that's my question. Is it a fully
It is.
functioning kitchen?
Yes.
Right, just
These
for
are independent
clarification.
units, so they're fully functional.
Right, that's what we had assumed, but that could be clarified too with the
I
plan
can.
revisions. I
I'll
think
write
that
it.
would be helpful.
Stove, sink,
Yes,
refrigerator?
cooking appliance, a dishwasher, a stove, a sink, I should say, and a refrigerator.
Any further questions, Caroline?
That's really it now. Thank you.
Does any member of the board have any questions of this witness relating to his testimony?
Yeah, I have one question. So the modifications you're making to the parking area is,
Not modifying, it's just reflective of the engineering drawing.
okay, so that apron that goes out onto Gunther, nothing is changing about the location, okay.
No.
And are you going to have a landscape architect testify, or?
Going to have landscaping testified to, yes.
Are the locations of the recycling and the trash enclosure, are those accurate where they're shown there?
Can we put the site plan up? They're looking at an old plan. Do we have the ability? I'm sorry, I don't know who's controlling it.
I don't
I
have
saw
that.
this and I thought it was the other.
No, that's just from
Steve has it.
my office.
My plan now reflects that parking arrangement with the trash enclosure straight in from the driveway entry on the eastern portion of the lot, of the parking driveway lot.
Says dumpster.
I know, but not my plan.
So I guess if I was the neighbor to the south, I'd be asking, why are you putting the trash enclosure area right by my property line?
That will be for the engineer to describe because it's his design, the site design by civil,
Could that be
building
moved?
location and building design
Could that be moved?
by architect. I'm sure we could try to find a way to move it, yes.
Okay, does any other board member have any questions? It's 10:33. I'd like to finish by 10:45. In the public, please raise your hand if you plan to ask any questions. Only one person? Oh, no, we have. We'll try and get through it, but I may cut it off in the middle of the questions. You had your hand up first, so please come forward. Yes, you. Yes. Please come forward and state your name and address. And remember, the question is only relating to the testimony.
Jaroslav Koresh, I spelled my name. Should I do that again?
You don't need to.
Yeah, okay. So, as we said before, we're talking about this being a little bit in form with the other houses, which are one family. And I see on your first floor area that I see the first level that you have there. Can you bring the floor plan up, please? Right there. You have two rooms. One is marked electric, and the other one is marked meter. Electric is for what?
Electric is for the service.
For electric service?
Mm-hmm.
And meter, what is that for?
That's for the sprinklers and the domestic water meter.
Okay. I'm an electrician by trade, so house this size approximately 400 amps. You can put that outside to save space, and that room could be used for something else.
Yes, it's going to be used probably for tenant storage, for resident storage.
Also, water meter is approximately this big, so it doesn't need its own room. You could put it outside, I would say. Also, if we're talking about making this house a little smaller, I think that staircase over here, as much as it looks beautiful and it looks like a mansion, I would say it's a wasted space also. It could be used for something else, like for bedrooms or something. It would make the house a little smaller. So we could find common ground somewhere between the residents and...
Please remember, you're stating that, but there's a question implied. He's asking you, should you do this? So answer the question as to, should you do this, or why didn't you?
The stair size, I think, is complementary to the design of the home, and I think that it allows for a comfortable stair to go up and down these stairs, because we have to consider that they have to be handicapped accessible stairs. These are not residential stairs. So they're going to meet the handicap requirements for accessibility. Therefore, the stairs are longer treads, shorter runs, more stairs.
Okay.
That's why they're designed that way.
Yeah.
And as far as the meter rooms and electrical rooms go, again, those are always designed when we do the utility services. We have the ability, though, to find tenant storage or resident storage in that area. It's
Okay, and to
technically
follow up on...
Another question is, was the inadequate drainage in the area taken into consideration by designing this house? And
the engineer will testify to all that drainage. It's a good question, and the engineer is going to answer it.
All right, but, all right, just to follow up, do you see any opportunity to reduce the size of this structure? We've just heard some suggestions, actually in the form of questions. Can this be reduced?
I don't know if I can answer that without seriously going through every one of those rooms again. I can't answer that right now.
Okay, thank you. Raise your hand so I can see who else has a question to ask. Mr. Ennis? Again, state your name and address.
My name is Bob Ennis, 830 Riverdale Road. You said this is going to be built on a slab. Has any consideration been given to the flooding that occurs down in that area?
Again, that would be the engineer who's going to speak about the water in the property.
Thank you
for asking.
Okay, please.
Well, as soon as 50 Beverly Road. You said that there's a sit-down, is that the sit-down stairs that's going to take them up to the second floor?
No. No, it's not.
So how are the handicapped people going to go to the second floor?
It's an accessible stair. By definition, that doesn't mean it has this chair lift, and it doesn't mean that. It's by code defined as an accessible stair.
Are you going to have any kind of security there?
It's not his question.
There's a security station, that's what I meant. Is there a security station there?
What do you mean
Design.
by
What do you mean by security?
An office where somebody comes in with a car and they check them out and you're okay to come in. Who you are, they question who you are, who can go in.
No.
No.
You don't have anything like that? Okay.
I would say you don't probably have a security station in a residential home either.
Yeah, but this isn't a regular residential home.
Just ask questions.
I'll beg to differ. Let's ask the next question.
Yeah. Charging station.
Be an engineer's question. It wasn't testified to.
So he's an architect.
Yeah.
I can answer it, but the engineer will answer it in his testimony.
Okay.
If you don't have another question, please, we'd like to move on.
Okay, I'll let you know in a minute. Okay, cooking there. You're going to have cooking. The residents going to be able to cook there
So
themselves?
in the group homes, when we design those these are all fully functional kitchens. In the group homes, staff members are always accompanying residents for that. In the independent residents living independently above, they are cooking independently.
So you're going to have a staff resident there at all times?
Not residents, staff
A staff, on different shifts?
Staff employee was testified to by Mr. Toronto. That's why there's an office there.
Different shifts. Okay, that's
Yes.
good. That's good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, it is 10:39, so
If you don't ask
do
me,
we-
please ask the chairman. If
Oh.
you want to ask a question, don't ask me.
Well, yeah, come up
I'm
to
done
the,
with those things.
come up to the podium. If you have another question, please come up to the podium
Chairman and Upper Saddle, you were the...
and state your name and address again.
This is, I don't understand this.
State your name and address again.
Okay, Jaroslav Koresh, 273 Garden Place. And this is just for my information. You said the number 3, proposed yard setback. Which measurement does it?
Engineer's going to testify to all the setbacks.
That question is for the engineer.
Engineer will testify to it.
All right. Do we have any other? Not seeing a show of hands, I close this to the public. All right. It is now 10:40, so we're still 5 minutes ahead. We're not going to proceed with anything else. What we're going to do is carry this case until March 18th at 7:30 p.m. Without need for further notice.
Chairman, I have to request that be carried to your April meeting. I don't have availability in March.
Okay, so
You have no chance for comment?
not until the end of the meeting. Not until the end of the case. Comment, as I said, no comments until the end of the case.
Mr. Chairman, what's the April date?
That's what I was just going to look at.
Third Monday?
Yeah, it's the third Monday.
Just so we can announce it.
That would be April 15th.
4/15?
April 15th. So this case is carried until April 15th, 7:30 p.m. without need for further comment.
No further notice.
Further notice.
And the applicant puts on the record that we statutorily carry the ability for you to render a decision through April the 16th.
Thank you. Well, I don't think we're quite at the...
We're not, but I always put it on the record just in case.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, those of you who would like to see the remainder of the meeting, which is about 5 minutes, you're welcome to stay. Those of you who are going to leave, please do so quietly. We are going to continue with the meeting. So, your discussions, please have your discussions outside. No discussions in here. That's the question. All right. Now, we'll move on. Old business. Do we have any old business? That's going to conform to the engineering. A member of the board with old business. Do we have any new business?
Okay.
Chairman, I just want to remind everybody they need to take the courses, training courses.
You anticipated what I was going to say.
Oh.
Good. No, that's okay. We do have the training course also.
We have 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months. We generally like you to take it as quickly as possible.
I did requested the dates.
Okay. You
I'll
work
just follow up
with
with them.
Steve. You work with Steve on the training course. Okay, and of course,
We'll send you information.
online, Steve, or in person. And also, folks, quiet. Conversations outside, please.
You got your...
Nah, I generally prefer to yell. Okay. Also, for the new members, we do request that you visit sites before the meeting so you can see them and understand what's going on. Any other new business? Open the meeting to the public. Does any member of the public wish to speak about regular items, nothing about cases? No? I'll close this meeting to the public. Motion to adjourn? Also move. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Meeting adjourned. It is 10:42 p.m.
I'll be talking.
that our own government is saying should not happen. Let me just say this. I'm really looking forward first to meeting people like Representative Aya and other Arab American, Muslim American leaders. He's not just a representative. He is the